Immediately following the U.S. Declaration of Independence, the British Crown began to regain control over the American colonies. After the Treaty of Paris in 1783, Britain retained military forts in the Great Lakes region and began extending loans to the U.S., creating debt dependencies to the Crown. In 1812, the British Crown waged war against the U.S. After the war, British financial firms began financing projects in the U.S. In 1816, the Second Bank of the United States had up to 70% of its stock held overseas, mostly in Great Britain. During the U.S. Civil War, Britain was involved in supporting both the North and the South. The Federal Reserve Act of 1913, which established a private central banking system, was established with the help of Paul Warburg, whose family partnered and intermarried with the Rothschild banking dynasty of the Bank of England. The 1944 Bretton Woods Conference ensured that London would maintain influence over American finance. The UK-USA Agreement of 1946 formalized the sharing between U.S. and British intelligence agencies. Right after being inaugurated in 2025, President Trump began saying that Canada will become the 51st state.
I think Canada would be much better off being a 51st state because we lose $200 billion a year with Canada, and I'm not going to let that happen. Canada would be great as our cherished 51st state. You wouldn't have to worry about borders. You wouldn't have to worry about anything. Canada was meant to be the 51st state. We don't need their energy. We don't need anything. We certainly don't want their automobiles. They make a lot of millions of automobiles are sent in. I'd rather have them made in Michigan. I'd rather have them made in South Carolina or any one of our...
But you're tougher with Canada than you are with some of our biggest adversaries.
Only because it's meant to be our 51st state.
And on February 27th, the Prime Minister of the UK, Keir Starmer, met with President Donald Trump at the White House and presented him with an invitation from King Charles for a state visit.
It is my pleasure to bring from His Majesty the King a letter. He sends his best wishes and his regards, of course, but he also asked me to bear this letter and bring it to you. So can I present the letter from the King to you?
Thank you very much. Am I supposed to read it right now?
Yeah, please do.
I will do.
I've got to tell him what your reaction is, so I need to know.
He is a great gentleman, a great, great gentleman. Well, that is really nice. I must make sure his signature's on that. Otherwise, it's not quite as meaningful. It is. That's quite a signature, isn't it? Beautiful. He's a beautiful man, a wonderful man, and we appreciate it. I've known him, gotten to know him very well, actually. First term and now second term. Perhaps you'd like to say what that very important paragraph...
Yes, so this is a letter from His Majesty the King. It's an invitation for a second state visit. This is really special. This has never happened before. This is unprecedented. And I think that just symbolises the strength of the relationship between us. So this is a very special letter. I think the last state visit was a tremendous success.
It was.
His Majesty the King wants to make this even better than that. So this is truly historic. What I haven't got yet is your answer. I do need to.
The answer is yes. On behalf of our wonderful First Lady, Melania, and myself, the answer is yes, and we look forward to being there and honoring the King and honoring really your country. Your country is a fantastic country, and it'll be our honor to be there. Thank you.
On March 20th, The Sun published an article stating that King Charles will reportedly make a secret offer to Donald Trump during his state visit that will make the USA an associate member of the Commonwealth. Trump posted this article on his Truth Social network and replied, "I love King Charles. Sounds good to me." Greg Reese reporting.
What's up, everybody? Sydney here. I'm going to explain to you exactly what's going on. I know that a lot of you have been following me for a while, especially under the trust and estate administration sides of the world, especially if you're in Canada and the United States. and why I've been moving everybody into a common law organizational trust and trying to protect you and shelter you from the situation that is actually playing out in the general public as we speak. And it's because there's a really big secret that the Canadian citizens, as well as the Americans, are not actually being exposed to or being told. And I'm going to expose to you right now why Mark Carney is actually in Canada. So it actually has to do with Canada being liquidated. Canada is in probate at the moment, which means that the Trust and Estate Administration, he's been appointed as executor on behalf of the Crown to basically liquidate and probate the estate so that Canada can go into the United States of America legally and lawfully. That's actually the right answer. And I know a lot of Canadians in here, especially First Nations and all you guys, are not going to agree with me, but it is what's being done as we speak. And there is a 90-day system going on right now, which is January, February, and March. And that's why the big actions are actually going to take place in March. There's a reason why this is happening, and I know that people don't really know anything about asset-backed securities. That's why Mark Carney is actually here. It's because he was the Governor General of the Bank of Canada, the Governor General of the Bank of England, tied directly to the Crown, which is all of the allodial titles in the asset-backed securities. That's why Justin Trudeau had to step down, and that's why he has to step in to the position of an unelected PM in order to be able to get what's called an administration bond in order to liquidate the affairs, because he is one of the most foremost authorities on asset-backed securities in Canada and the United States. I'm going to bring you to the important part. It's the testator's nominated executor. So this has to do with what Queen Elizabeth's orders that just came out and got released, and why you now know why Carney is here. To illustrate the court's reluctance to set aside the testator's nominated executor, even a person in prison or a non-resident individual may be appointed. They don't want this going to court. They just want it dealt and done and over with. It was part of an agreement that was done to liquidate the estate of Canada so that it can be entered into the United States under a backdoor contract, because they want all of North America united under one system. This is a true story. This is happening right now as we speak. Non-resident executor. So for those of you that are Canadians in here and you're lawyers and attorneys, or any of the citizens that think that you understand that because, oh, they're not citizens, they hold citizenship in other residencies, they have other things going on. Mark Carney is not Canadian. He's English. He's this, he's that, he's our... You don't know the law. You don't know Trust and Estate Administration. So listen to what they say about non-resident executors. A person need not be a resident in the province or in Canada to be an executor. However, if the person resides in a jurisdiction other than another province of Canada or the British Commonwealth countries, it is necessary for the non-resident to post an administration bond. Even the first one in there, the executor has to post an administrative bond. That's why Mark Carney is in Canada as an unelected going into the PM position, because he will be granted an administration bond in order to act as the executor to liquidate the affairs of Canada over to the United States. For those of you that think for some weird reason that this is not happening, that Canada isn't part of the United States, they are actually accumulating all of the assets right now. They're getting all the records in place. They're getting everything constructed. That's why Parliament is prorated. You can't pass laws when you're under probate. Nothing can move under probate. Everything must be settled out. All transactions have to be settled. That's why nothing is moving. That's why Mark Carney is here. That's why you're seeing all of these things play out. It's all part of the script. That's what's going on in the world.
Well, hello, everyone. I know that was kind of long, but I felt like it was important. And as Verba Homefront says, I'm not sure I understand all of what he said. It's very long, but boring and interesting at the same time. Yeah, that's why I played it. Not because it was boring, and some of it was, obviously. I'll probably edit some of that down, honestly, for the full show later on. However, I do think it was an important point and interesting to see his perspective, that it looks to be more or less a done deal from the standpoint of consolidating things and including Canada as the 51st state, is what he is saying. So, perhaps that is what this whole brouhaha about Trump and the Commonwealth and King Charles has to do with, because as many of you may or may not know, Canada is a Commonwealth country, and for all intents and purposes is under the British Royal Crown, and King Charles has a lot to do with anything Canada decides. So it's very, I think, an important point to just continue to make here, that it's possible that this particular meeting coming up between Trump and KC3 could involve, or may very well involve, Canada and the 51st state, versus what we're being told here about the United States joining the Commonwealth. And we're going to look at that a little bit more again this week. We looked at it last week as well. I personally don't think that that is something Trump will do, although, if he does, I will be the first person out there screaming that, the founding fathers will be rolling over in their graves and he's making a huge mistake. And I know many people will be saying that exact same thing. So anyway, it's just interesting to me that it looks like, at least from this guy's perspective, the guy that we just watched, that Canada is in probate and that the 51st state is happening. So we will see. We'll see where it goes. And I don't really know that meeting between King Charles and Trump has been scheduled yet, but obviously he's agreed to go meet him. So it's probably going to be very soon. I personally think that another big chunk of what that discussion will have to do with Ukraine and trying to twist Trump's arm to get him to get the U.S. to stay in NATO and to get them to continue funding the endless war in Ukraine. I think that's probably a big part of it as well, as I mentioned last week. So anyway, hope you guys are doing well. A little bit of a later start tonight, I guess. We started early, but we had a lot more video to play tonight. So it's 10:16 p.m. on 3/30/25, March 30th. So anyway, this is the Diamond Report Live, and I'm glad you guys are here. This is Doug Diamond. Yet again, another weekly show, weekly installment. We do live broadcasts every Sunday night, starting at 10 p.m. Central Time. We usually go for 2 or 3 hours, and we'll see how things progress tonight. Got lots to cover, so we'll try and get through as much of it as possible before I either fall asleep or you guys do. So anyway, I hope you guys have had a great week, and let's take a look at some of the news. The first article I've got pulled up has to do with the same thing. From The Conversation, Trump is interested in joining the Commonwealth. It's not up to him or even the king. So this is, going back to what we were just talking about, and not to belabor the point here, but there is quite a bit of info on this particular article. So we won't spend any more time on that particular thing tonight as far as the Commonwealth and so forth. But I thought this article was fairly explanatory, and another good one to link to in the Substack post that I send out on Tuesday. So watch for that as well. And again, we'll see where it all goes. I'm not sure that any of that has been decided. I know Charles has got these ongoing health issues, which we're going to take a look at briefly a little bit later as well. So we'll see how things play out. You guys know what I think about Charles. I personally think he does fit the bill for the biblical Antichrist. He's a little bit older than we all assumed the biblical Antichrist might be, but that doesn't mean he doesn't fit the bill. And we've talked about that many times on this show. All right, let's take a look at the first other website I've got pulled up here just for breaking news, more or less, HalTurnerRadioshow.com. Alert April 5th. So the big plan, I guess, is for next Saturday. Every left-wing group in the nation is planning massive protests nationwide April 5th. Everyone needs to be monitoring their area and the protests that are planned. Now, he's talking specifically about this one date, and that might be the start. But I think that they're going to, the Democrats have come out and said over the last few months, really, before the election even, that's what they want to do, is to have a civil war started in this country. And they're going to foment the civil war, and they're going to do it little by little, just to kind of get you ready, to get you prepared for the idea of civil unrest. And it's just starting with the keying of Teslas and the blowing up of, different cars that supposedly Musk had a direct involvement in, which of course we looked at last week. He's a 12% stakeholder or something like that in Tesla. So they're going to use this as an excuse. I think they're going to try and make this the summer of fiery but peaceful protests, just like they did in 2020. So I think that's where they're headed. This could be just the kickoff event for that. Saturday, April 5th, says remove corrupt politicians from office, reverse the damage, and reclaim our democracy, which, of course, they're saying that, but they want all the opposite. These are nationwide protests, with the largest being in D.C., planned for April 5th. It's a joint effort between 501, Indivisible Women's March, Political Revolution, and dozens of others, maybe hundreds, says remove, reverse, reclaim, hands off the Veto Project 2025, and of course they are, quote, defending democracy. Hands off, National Day of Action, Saturday, April 5th. Here's what they have on their other graphic here. Donald Trump and Elon Musk think that this country belongs to them. They're taking everything they can get their hands on and daring the world to stop them. On Saturday, April 5th, we're taking to the streets nationwide to fight back with the clear message, hands off. So that's what that's all about. They are protesting everything from Doge and LGBTQ rights and women's rights, Tesla, Palestine, Free Mahmoud Khalil, and Trump and Project 2025, etc. They are mobilizing in every state across the country, but the focus is in D.C. And they're even helping to organize people to travel to D.C. Sounds like a little bit of an insurrection to me. I don't know. But of course, the Democrats that ran the January 6th thing won't be too worried about them. Says, and of course, the socialists. And then here is a embedded tweet with the on April 5th logo and graphic on there as well. It says the trans people have been circulating videos with them using guns. So here's the trans army, I guess. They are the ones that are, in particular, at least, seem to be the most violent of all of the different groups out there. Communists always put the aggrieved and historically discriminated minorities and trannies into power in order to genocide with the pretext of revenge and liberation. Same playbook as the 1917 Bolshevik Revolution in Russia, the Mao Cultural Revolution in China, Pol Pot, etc. Only this time it's happening here, inside the U.S. And we had better be ready to put a stop to if and when they turn violent. They always do. Yeah, so I think that's probably the whole point, which is kind of what I was going back to as far as the mostly peaceful protests, mostly the fiery but mostly peaceful protests that they had in 2020. So, we'll see where they go. Yeah, it's okay when they do it. Exactly. So anyway, just something to keep your eye on. That's not until next Saturday, but we won't have another show between now and then, so I just wanted to bring that to your attention now. And then got a couple other articles pulled up from House site. Breaking news. This is from a day or two ago now, but Zelensky tells the U.S. no deal. Volodymyr Zelensky personally said today that Ukraine will not acknowledge the past debt to the U.S. He went on to say that the U.S. cannot set any conditions on Ukraine unless they send new aid. So he wants hundreds of billions more dollars, and he's not going to say that they're not going to acknowledge any past debt to the U.S. Wow. Zelensky's not ready to sign the new minerals agreement. He went on to publicly whine that this administration will not do anything for free for us. So I think he's probably right about that, although we'll see. I don't know. You never know about Trump. Could change his mind on some of this stuff. But anyway, I thought that was pretty interesting. And then this one was a front and center breaking news thing today. I'll try not to be too gross on this one, but let me just read what Hal's got written here. Known virus emerges in Russia, fever, bloody cough for weeks. An unknown virus has suddenly emerged in Russia. People are suffering from a high fever and bloody cough for weeks, according to the reports. Symptoms of those infected are identical. It begins with the typical aches and weakness, but after a few days, the virus drains the person, making it difficult to even get out of bed, and their condition rapidly worsens. Along with a fever of up to 102, the sick report a severe cough that brings them to tears and blood when they cough up. So that's really gross. Tests for COVID and flu come back negative. Again, testing with a test that doesn't test for a virus. And according to patients, antibiotics do not help. So this is Hal's analysis. I won't read all this, but he's comparing it a little bit to Ebola outbreak in Africa, although the cough is not common at all. So anyway, I just wanted to bring your attention to it. It's just something that he's reporting. I'm not seeing this anywhere else, but doesn't look too good. Not good at all. So that's on HalTurnerRadioshow.com if you guys want to have a look at that site. He puts out some really good information and a really good nightly radio broadcast as well that I always try and tune into. All right, let's see. I've got one article pulled up on G. Edward Griffin's site, needtoknow.news. Trump executive order requires proof of citizenship to register to vote. And blocks states from accepting mail-in ballots after Election Day. So again, it's an executive order, so the states could decide not to follow this, obviously, but it's a guideline. President Trump's new executive order preserving and protecting the integrity of American elections aims to prevent fraud and meddling in national elections, mandating proof of citizenship for voter registration and requiring all votes to be cast and received by the end of Election Day, not election season, as we've been subject to at the moment. This new executive order will be challenged in court. Probably as he was signing the executive order, it was being challenged in court, is my guess. This tweet from Benny Johnson says, Trump signs executive orders to secure our elections, and these are the bullet points. Citizenship proof for voting, funds tied to integrity compliance. So that's one of the caveats there, is that if the state wants to continue having federal funds sent to them, they will comply. So I think that's pretty powerful if it works. And then, of course, paper ballots and the Attorney General to track election fraud, crackdowns on late ballots, and acts as the Biden voter turnout executive order. So, yeah, he did do away with a former Biden executive order as well. Now we've got a video embedded here. I won't bother playing that, but you guys can check it out if you're interested. A couple Liberty Beacon articles I pulled up. RFK Jr. signals support for state-led geoengineering bans. 25 U.S. states moved to ban atmospheric spraying. And as my good friend Mr. Dane would say, that it's really good to bring attention to this particular issue, but it will not stop the geoengineering programs, whatever these states do. But it is really good to get it on the record for sure. Let's see here. And then we've got some different links for all the various states that have either already adopted anti-geoengineering legislation or the ones that are working on it now. There's quite a few here. And then we've got some tweets embedded as well, or screenshots, I guess, from RFK Jr. It says, with 24 states now having introduced legislation to ban atmospheric geoengineering. I think they're saying 24 because Tennessee already did. We did that last year here. Not that I had anything to do with it, but I reported on it back then. With 24 states now having introduced legislation to ban atmospheric geoengineering, including a soon-to-be filed bill from Michigan, the latest to join, the grassroots-led, people-powered sky sovereignty movement is achieving what many once thought impossible, awakening the nation to the silent, shadowy manipulation of our weather and skies. This is no longer fringe. This is no longer future. This is now. I like that. I think that's very true, and I'm glad that people are waking up to this. So here are the states that are mentioned here on this screenshot. Again, something that RFK Jr. has put out. Alabama, Arizona, Florida, Idaho, Iowa, Kentucky, Maine, Minnesota, Missouri, or Missouri, depending on where you're from, Montana, New Hampshire, New Jersey, New York, North Carolina, North Dakota, Oklahoma, Pennsylvania, Rhode Island, South Carolina, Tennessee, Texas, Vermont, West Virginia, and Wyoming. And then there are links to each and every one of those different bills that are in process. Secretary RFK Jr.'s public endorsement of this movement is a watershed moment. As a steward of the Department of Health and Human Services, his acknowledgement represents an unprecedented alignment between the executive branch and grassroots uprising for clean air, blue skies, and sovereign health. The MAHA Commission, Make America Healthy Again, was born to defend bodily autonomy, truth in science, and the unshakable connection between people and the planet. The Sky Protective Movement is one of the clearest expressions. So anyway, thought that was a pretty neat article, and it's good news. We'll see, of course, where it goes. Don't have full full faith in exactly what they're talking about here, and that these states will even necessarily pass these things. Hopefully they will. But the more important point here is that the issue is getting the attention that it deserves. I think that is really the main thing. And to find out the latest information about geoengineering, I would definitely not want to miss the opportunity to pass along. The best website for that, of course, is the website that I help manage with Mr. Dane Wigington, which is geoengineeringwatch.org. It's a great site. So anyway, I just wanted to let you guys know about that. I thought that was good news. And then this one from Liberty Beacon as well. NBC has film proving that Oswald couldn't have been the shooter that killed JFK. And so this is the first I'd heard of this. I thought this was pretty interesting. This is something that Anna Paulina Luna had mentioned. Here's what this is about. The Republican Congresswoman who's leading a task force on the declassification of JFK and other assassination files made a sensational claim on Friday evening stating that NBC News possesses film evidence proving that Lee Harvey Oswald could not have shot Kennedy and that she's now working to obtain it. Florida Rep. Anna Paulina Luna made the jarring allegation in an interview with Jesse Waters on Fox News. Luna is chairwoman of the Task Force on the Declassification of Federal Secrets, a subcommittee of the House Committee on Oversight and Government Reform. She told Waters that the task force will be holding an April 1 hearing on the tens of thousands of documents that have been declassified pursuant to Trump's executive order and a 1992 Act of Congress. And let's see here. Here is a photograph. Cameras captured Lee Harvey Oswald's assassination. Jack Ruby, top right here, posing as a reporter at Oswald's midnight press conference on November 22nd, 1963. Ruby killed Oswald 2 days later. So there he is, posing as a press person. Then she dropped her bombshell. It was made aware to me this evening that NBC actually has video that's never been seen before. We're actually going to be sending a letter requesting that from NBC because it allegedly shows Oswald near the vehicle when the assassination took place, which means that he couldn't have been the shooter. So how about that? So Oswald near the car, I guess. So he wasn't up in the book depository. So anyway, I don't know. We'll see if this comes out. This is the first I've heard of it. We'll have to wait and see if a film emerges that substantiates Oswald's claims of innocence. I personally do think that he was exactly what he said. I think that he was a patsy. And of course, that's why they had to get rid of him and shut him up, because they couldn't let it go to trial. They didn't have any evidence against him, so they had to kill him. So he would forever be that person. So the lone gunman. Anyway, thought that was pretty interesting. And then let's see. This one I thought was a bit scary. So check this one out. Let's actually watch this video. This is something that's going on over in the UK. Teacher Enoch Burke refused to endorse transgenderism at his school, but his entire bank account has now been seized by the Irish courts.
Enoch Burke here. I'm standing outside the Bank of Ireland branch in Castlebar, County Mayo. When I left my workplace today, Wilson's Hospital School, at about 5:30 in the evening, I checked my bank balance, and this is what I found. €0 in my bank account. I have been robbed of €40,617 by the courts. Judge David Nolan, Mr. Rossa Fanning, the Attorney General, and the government all working hand in hand. These people are millionaires. They're driving out of the forecourts in their big cars, but they're vultures sniffing around now to take from me everything I own, to strip from me every asset I have, and to look for anything that I might have that they can take away. That's what these people are doing. We know it all goes back to The fact that in 2022, I was demanded by Principal Niamh McShane to promote transgenderism in the school where I worked. A demand made by that principal, Niamh McShane, still a principal in a school down in Cork, a demand that should never have been made and should not be made today, because there is no shred of legal authority for that demand to be made.
Okay, well, you get the idea of what's going on here, and it's, mentioned here in text as well. So they robbed his entire bank account, 40,617 euros, gone, because he refused to endorse transgenderism in his school. He's a teacher. His entire bank account has been seized by the Irish courts. The courts have also directed that the Irish Attorney General may apply to seize any other assets that he owns as well. The root cause of this case was the principal's direction to all staff to address a male student by a new name and the they pronoun. This demand had no legal authority and has never been addressed for its constitutionality or lawfulness by any court. And yet, look what they did. They just make up the laws. But of course, that is the UK, and that's what they want to bring here as soon as possible. Anyway, I just wanted to mention that. That is some really scary stuff, that they're just going in because this guy won't use the proper pronouns. I put that in quotes, the proper pronouns. They've now taken all of his money. They've seized it. And they're going after more, apparently. So that is amazing. Amazing. I just wanted to let you guys know about that. That is some scary stuff right there. And then this as well. This is a similar story. You may have heard of this company called Gab. I've got a profile on Gab, and many of you guys may as well. Gab has lost access to international payment processing this last week. Now we know why. So not only is the UK government trying to destroy our US business, but they are targeting any business that works with us and trying to destroy them too. And then they're tagging J.D. Vance here. Something must be done to stop these Redcoat tyrants. Redcoat tyrants. So that's exactly what's going on. So again, more of the same. This is an American company, Gab, that is now, got their international payment processing shut off as far as working with the UK. So, wow. Utah becomes the first state to ban LGBTQ plus pride flags in government buildings and schools. Utah became the first state to prohibit flying the pride flags at schools and all government buildings after the Republican governor announced he was allowing a ban on unsanctioned flag displays to become law without his signature. Starting May 7th, state or local government buildings will be fined $500 a day for flying any flag other than the U.S. flag, the Utah flag, or military flags, or a short list of other approved flags by lawmakers. So there you go. There he is. Governor Spencer Cox made the announcement Thursday. So anyway, we'll see what happens, but I guess, take it for what it's worth. New data reveals U.S. food companies' biggest fear is Americans wanting to be healthy. Yeah, that makes sense. Wall Street Journal just dropped quite the little truth bomb. They spoke with 30 major U.S. packaged food companies, and guess what their biggest fear is? Americans wanting to be healthy. No inflation, not that, not supply chain issues, health. Health is their scary thing. That should scare the living daylights out of every single American, but it should not be a big shock. So this is RFK Jr. Video embedded here talking about some of the various chemicals in all these different products. Big Food is terrified of people waking up, reading labels, cutting sugar, skipping seed oils, and walking away from the ultra-processed slop that has been making this country fat, sick, and depressed for decades. Because once people stop eating their poison, the whole rotten system collapses. Food giants lose profits, Big Pharma loses lifelong customers, and the medical and industrial complex can't cash in on treating symptoms they never intended to cure in the first place. So it's interesting that the Wall Street Journal is bothering to report on this. That's kind of one of the, at least to me, one of the interesting things, just because they're mainstream media and you wouldn't think that, they're pretty much bought off by big pharma and big food and stuff anyway. So anyway, there's more information and videos embedded and all kinds of stuff. Revolver.news article. And then I've got several X posts here that I've flagged. So let's take a look at each one of these. May not be necessarily related, but we'll look at each one. Now this one I found, I'm not sure that this is provable, although he does have a screen capture here with quite a bit of numbers and information, but I'll link to this in the Substack post. This is what this guy's saying here on X. Wow, file this under unprecedented as far back as observations go. Not only is the 40 to 45 degree temperature gradient between Boston and New York right now something that we've not seen before, but it's snowing right now in Boston while it's 80 degrees in New York City. So I don't live in either one of those places, so I can't really verify it. But that sounds about right, doesn't it, as far as geoengineering goes and the climate falling off of the rails. He's got 35 degrees in snow in Boston and 80 degrees in New York City, based on this map. And then here's a look at the My Radar app showing what we have seen, simply gobsmacked that this is a thing. And then a couple people have questioned it. And this guy says, the same guy that posted the original thing that I just covered here is saying that Boston did report 2 hours of light snow. This was earlier today. 2 hours of light snow in their observations, and a trace denoted with a T was logged in the observations for Logan Airport, the city's official observation site. Here's the graphic. Climatological data for Boston Logan International Airport, March 2025. So you can see the temperatures here, and then here's the traces of snow, and the max and minimum temperatures. So traces of snow, like for instance here, 37 degrees was the minimum, and yet traces of snow. That is chemical ice nucleation, because you can have snow when you are above freezing there. Yeah, 80 degrees. Okay. Joyce is saying yes, it was 80. Down here, though, we've got 60 degrees was the warmest point, and 37 was the minimum, and we do have snow, traces of snow. Then here's traces of snow here as well at 38 degrees. So that is a telltale sign of chemical ice nucleation. Mr. Dane talks about that every week on his Global Alert News broadcast. So anyway, I thought that was pretty interesting. I'd not seen that wide of a shift in temperature, and then the fact that you've got snow in one place and then, sunny and warm, just, a stone's throw down the road. 186 miles, it says, is the distance between Boston and New York City. So pretty amazing that there's a 40 to 45 degree difference. All right, there was a big earthquake earlier in the week, and we'll look at that a little closer. This was the second one. This one just happened a little while ago. 7.1 earthquake strikes Tonga. This was posted by Dutch Sense on his X account. A 7.1 magnitude earthquake struck near Tonga on March 30th, southeast of Pengai, at the depth of approximately 10 kilometers. This event triggered a tsunami warning, leading to the activation of tsunami sirens and evacuation of residents to higher ground. The earthquake was followed by aftershocks, largest being a 6.1 magnitude. Although no significant damage was initially reported, the incident has raised concerns about increased seismic activity in the region following recent earthquakes nearby. The tsunami warning was eventually lifted, indicating no further threat from the sea. And then here's a picture from his earthquake software. So anyway, something to keep an eye on for sure. Another big old earthquake. And then the one in Burma, in Myanmar, that is one that we will look at a little bit closer. I've got an article pulled up on that as well. That was pretty amazing. Some of the footage that was captured when that happened a few days ago as well. All right, now this one is, I thought this was worth just listening to just a couple minutes of. This is a video from the Bret Baier interview with Musk and Doge. They've gotten quite the bad rap over the last few weeks or months, and I just wanted to play a little bit of this just to give you an idea of this. If you missed it, at least you can catch a couple minutes here. Let's see what this has to say.
We're talking about elementary financial controls that are necessary for any company to function. So, like, if the federal government, if a commercial company operated the way the federal government does, then it would be immediately go bankrupt. It would be delisted. The officers would be arrested. The changes we're putting in place will enable the federal government to pass an audit. It will enable taxpayers to know where the money is going and know that their hard-earned tax dollars are being spent well. The ways that the government is defrauded is that the computer systems don't talk to each other. So if the computer systems don't talk to each other, then you can exploit that gap, and fraudsters exploit that gap, take advantage. For example, there were over $300 million of Small Business Administration loans that has been given out to people under the age of 11.
Well, actually, to add to it, it's $300 million under the age of 11 and over $300 million to over the age of 120.
Definitely.
Small business loans.
Correct.
Yes. The oldest American is 114. So it's safe to say if their age is 115 or above, they're fake. Or they should be in the Guinness Book of World Records. And we should not be giving out loans to babies. So the youngest recipient of a Small Business Administration loan is a 9-month-old, which is a very, very precocious baby we're talking about here. So obviously it was just fraudulent. And they do terrible things. They actually will see that a kid's been born. They will steal that kid's social security number and then take out a loan and leave that kid with a bad credit rating. There was literally a baby. The terrible things are being done is what we're saying. And we're stopping these terrible things.
And you can stop it? I mean,
we are stopping it.
The reason this is happening is because the two systems are not talking to each other.
Yes.
Right? And so you don't know at the Small Business Administration that you're giving a loan to a 9-month-old, which happened in one case, because you're not cross-referencing that with the Social Security Administration data that has birth dates. So that very, very simple fix eliminates tremendous fraud. And that there are multiple systems across the government where the systems are not speaking with one another. And if you just solve that simple problem, you would solve a huge amount of fraud.
Are you surprised? So one of the ways that, like one of the key tricks that the fraudsters pull is that they will use the fact that someone is marked as live, and as sort of just that Social Security number is marked as live in Social Security, and then get disability and unemployment insurance for a dead person. Because the databases don't talk to each other, all they got was from Social Security is like, is this person alive? Yes, they're not alive. It's falsely marked. Person is falsely marked as alive in Social Security, but they didn't. But that person, a fraudster can now get unemployment and disability from a dead person. This is happening all the time at scale.
Are you surprised at some of the legal efforts and some of the judges that have weighed in? There's about 8 or 10 now of these cases that are at least temporary holds. They're being challenged by the DOJ.
Right.
Are you surprised by that pushback?
Well, it's the D.C. Circuit is notorious for having a very far-left bias. And when you look at the people close to some of these judges, where are they working? Oh, they're working at these NGOs. Oh, they're the ones getting this money. Does that seem like a system that lacks corruption? It sounds like corruption to me.
Last thing, do you guys all see this as a patriotic duty? I mean, is that really what this is about?
It's essential.
Very much so. I do, 100%. I was running 5 businesses in Houston, and I left that. I left great people to do this, and my wonderful wife said, go for it. And here I am. But I feel like this is me giving back to the country.
If we don't do this, we're sunk. The ship, unless this exercise is successful, the ship of America will sink. That's why we're doing it.
Well, there you go. There you go. Straight from Doge's mouth. So, I don't know. They don't seem all that evil to me. Seems like they're trying to do something that matters. Keep the ship afloat, as they say. So, I thought that was pretty interesting short clip there. The entire Bret Baier interview with them is about 30 minutes long, and I do have it on my X account if you guys want to listen to the whole thing, and I'll put a link in the post that I sent out on Tuesday as well for that, if you happen to want to watch that. I did watch it and thought it was pretty interesting. Of course, you know, the main complaint that the people on the left have about that particular interview was that it was all white guys. That was the main problem, even though one of them was clearly an Indian type of person. So anyway, they're too worried about people's skin color. That's all they really care about, not about what they're saying. Now, speaking of Musk, I know many of you guys in chat don't really care for him much, and I get it. I understand, but I have one other article pulled up on him. So XAI has acquired X in an all-stock transaction. The combination values XAI at $80 billion and X at $33 billion, which is $45 billion less the $12 billion in debt. Since its founding 2 years ago, XAI has rapidly become one of the leading AI labs in the world, building models and data centers at unprecedented speed and scale. X is the digital town square where more than 600 million active users go to find real-time source of ground truth, and in the last 2 years has been transformed into one of the most efficient companies in the world, positioning it to deliver scalable future growth. And then it says XAI and X's futures are intertwined. Today, we officially take the step to combine the data, models, compute, distribution, and talent. This combination will unlock immense potential by blending XAI's advanced AI capability and expertise with X's massive reach. The combined company will deliver smarter, more meaningful experiences to billions of people while staying true to our core mission of seeking truth and advancing knowledge. This will allow us to build a platform that doesn't just reflect the world, but actively accelerates human progress. I would like to recognize the hardcore dedication of everyone at XAI and X that has brought us to this point. So that was a tweet directly from Musk on, well, let's see, it was on the 28th, so just on Friday. So anyway, I just wanted to mention that. And, I've heard that he's going to be merging several things together like this, so we'll see where it goes. But, I think that he's attempting to do some good things here, working with Doge and so forth. But, we'll see where it all goes. Obviously, he's the world's richest person for a reason, right? So, anyway, I just wanted to bring that to your attention. And this one actually is more of something that would correspond to what I mentioned last week with the swatting. But as I was going through the headlines and closing out the browser tabs I had open last week for last week's show, I came across this article and thought I would mention it on this show in case anybody wants to look at it. It's on headlineusa.com. Special report. Headline USA source reveals group behind recent swatting attacks. Swatting attacks are currently taking the online influencer space by storm. Who is actually responsible for these crimes, and what is law enforcement doing? So this is more information on here about what's going on with the swatting and a few more details. There's quite a bit to this article. And it shows this guy here. It says in November of 2024, Philion, I guess is this person, pled guilty to 4 counts of making interstate threats. In February 2025, the worst swatter in U.S. history received a paltry 4-year sentence for his crime spree. That's this guy, Alan Philion. He didn't act alone. He was part of a community of cyber criminals who both assisted him in committing his attacks and canonized him as a swatting idol. Tor swats, T-O-R swats, would become the inspiration for many copycat attacks, a swatting version of Columbine. So anyway, there is quite a bit of interesting stuff here, and looks like it's an international type of situation going on here, based on some of these names that are mentioned. So I'll link to this in the Substack post that I send out on Tuesday, so that is something that you can keep an eye out for if you're interested in the whole swatting thing. All right, and then this article from Western Journal, this is actually just a short video clip. I mentioned back when Walz and Harris were running for president and vice president, I mentioned Walz's son, who his name is Gus, and how when they were accepting the nomination, Walz kind of jerked his son's arm real hard when they were walking out. You guys may remember it, the video clip. And you could see that his son most likely has some sort of, well, let's just say it looks like he's possibly on the spectrum. It's hard to say. But he's definitely, I would say, perhaps challenged in some way. Well, this is what's funny about this particular video clip is that it says Tim Walz got bodied by his 18-year-old son. So I'll let you hear this clip because I thought it was pretty funny what old Gus said to dear old dad.
I got an 18-year-old Gus, and I'm with Gus out there, and I'm having one of those dad talks with him. I was giving Gus my wisdom on what he had done wrong. You know, I was because I know these things, right? I'm the dad. In the middle of it, he gives me the old, says the guy who got his ass kicked by Donald Trump. And I'm like, okay.
Good job, Gus. That was pretty funny. Anyways, so yeah, old Gus didn't like what dear old dad was telling him, I guess, whatever it was. Got his arse kicked by Donald Trump. Too funny. All right, now we mentioned this last week as well, and this is a kind of a follow-up article, and I've got a video that kind of goes with this, but just for time's sake tonight, I probably won't play it and just link to the video. But this is more about the Giza Plateau and what was found there. Scientists on a mission to prove a vast city sits more than 4,000 feet below Egypt's Giza pyramids have released a new analysis, they say, that proves that the findings are true. And what's interesting about this, I think, is this other video. I could show just a couple minutes of it just so you get a flavor for what this is about. And that is the research of Billy Carson about the structure that's underneath the Giza Pyramid, which I think is really, really interesting. And he goes into a lot of detail in this video. Let's watch just a short little piece of this. This is from Alex's show, so my apologies if you're offended, but I think what Billy Carson's saying here is really important. And note that when they really get deep into the discussion, it kind of comes out that he's probably a bit on the New Agey side. He's not really approaching this from a Christian believer standpoint, meaning Billy Carson. But what he's saying here is really interesting, I think. So let's watch just a short little bit of this, and then we'll come back and continue on. So how about that? That is some crazy stuff right there, and matches kind of what I mentioned last week about how, it's been talked about that Giza did connect to Mars and the pyramids there as well. And I just thought that interview that he did with Billy Carson was really good and certainly worth watching. And we'll link to that on the Substack post, but it's also available on band.video if you guys want to see it before Tuesday when I send out the Substack post. But anyway, this is a Daily Mail article just sort of reiterating some of what they were talking about a little bit as far as the under the pyramid area there, the vast city that was mentioned. So anyway, that's a Daily Mail article. And then some of the headlines on the People's Voice.tv. WEF scientists are growing human bodies in artificial wombs to use as, quote, meat. Lovely, huh? Democrats pass sleeping tax bill targeted at tired Americans. We'll look at that one a little closer because that one kind of spiked my curiosity. U.S. orders French contractors to end all DEI policies. Paris, thousands protest against military aid to Ukraine. Yeah, but it won't matter because the rulers just do what they want, don't they? Ex-Italian Prime Minister claims Zelensky tried to enlist the support of China and Brazil. NBC hiding bombshell JFK assassination video that blows official narrative apart, which we mentioned that earlier, about the video that they supposedly have of Oswald near the car. Putin survives globalist assassination attempt in Moscow as limo explodes in flames. Yeah, did you guys hear about this? One of Putin's luxury limousines erupted into flames on a Moscow street just steps from the headquarters of Russia's feared FSB Secret Service. Yeah, one of the vehicles exploded. And then Bill Gates caught pumping depopulation drugs into popular lotions and creams. The global elite have you locked in to their sights, striking from all sides with a chilling in-game depopulation, ruthless, deliberate, and evil to its core. So anyway, those are the top headlines on the People's Voice, and I pulled up a couple of those separately. Putin survives globalist assassination attempt in Moscow as limo explodes in flames. I was looking to see if the video is embedded. There is a video. Yeah, it's right here. It's not really embedded, but it is here of the footage. Eyewitness footage shows fire breaking out in the engine before spreading rapidly inside the vehicle. So, but obviously Putin was not in the car, but anyway, it's one of his limos or one just like it. I'm not sure which. And then this one, Democrats pass the sleeping tax bill targeting tired Americans. I'm like, what in the world is this about? So what they've done here is that they are applying extra taxes on mattresses in the state of Maryland. It says in a bold move, Democrats in Maryland have passed the HB 858 dubbed the sleeping tax bill, targeting tired Americans with a new 6% levy on mattresses. Far-left lawmakers, led by the governor, are piling on costs for residents already struggling to keep up, sparking outrage over this unconventional revenue grab. Yeah, and then it's showing a screenshot here of who voted yes on it. And the video, this guy was just commenting here. He's one of the delegates, I guess, and he was opposed to it. And he says that he would not be surprised if they wanted to apply a snoring surcharge next. That's what it's come down to, I guess, at this point. But yeah, apparently the extra tax is to raise more money for the eco-friendly disposal and recycling of mattresses. That's what they're claiming it's for. Of course, it's going to be going into the Democrats' pockets and coffers, most likely. But pretty wild. I mean, and then he made the point of also saying, though, this guy did, that there's already a 6% sales tax. So then throw that on top of the 6% they're going to add onto the mattress tax. So that's why they're calling it the sleep tax in Maryland. Very strange. All right, information liberation headlines. Trump threatens war with Iran if no nuclear deal. There will be bombing like they've never seen. So again, from the president of peace, President Trump, who unilaterally threw out Obama's Iranian nuclear deal during his first term to please GOP megadonor Sheldon Adelson on Sunday, threatened to bomb Iran if they don't negotiate a new nuclear deal, similar to the one he scrapped. So there you go. More peaceful bombing, looks like. Trump's strong arms another law firm into giving millions in pro bono work to combat anti-Semitism. Because that's all that matters. Just people who talk about Israel. Kentucky Rep. Massey introduces Dual Loyalty Disclosure Act. I think that's a really good idea. Massey has introduced the Dual Loyalty Disclosure Act to require candidates for federal office to disclose both their possession of dual citizenship and also the foreign country in which their dual citizenship is held. Where do you think most of these people in Congress are dual citizens with? The U.S. and where else? Where do you suppose? Israel? Most, yeah. So there you go. I would guess that that's probably not going to pass, but it's good that he's trying it at least. All right, and then there's further headlines on information liberation. Good site with lots of info. Trump threatens Zelensky with big problems. So this was a headline on RT just a little bit ago. The U.S. president has warned Kiev against backing out of the rare earth deal with Washington. Sounded to me like he already did. He's been in and out several times here already, Zelensky. I don't know how you could ever trust anything this guy says, personally. Says Trump has warned Zelensky to think twice about rejecting the latest version of Washington's proposed minerals deal, already far harsher than an earlier draft derailed by the Ukrainian leader's outburst at the White House. 100% U.S. gets Greenland, according to Trump. So back to the Greenland and Canada thing. Doesn't seem to be going away. Using military force to acquire the island is not off the table. the American president has said. So there you go. Once again, the president of peace coming through. Trump has said that he is sure that Washington will take over Greenland and that he has already had absolutely real conversations about annexing the Danish autonomous territory. We'll get Greenland, yeah, 100%, Trump told the U.S. broadcaster NBC in a phone interview on Saturday. There is a good possibility that we could do it without military force. And he also stated he's not taking anything off the table. So why Greenland so much? Not just the natural resources. I think there's other things at foot here, don't you? Anyway, he's got his sights set on Greenland as well as Canada, I think. So we'll see what happens. That one's on RT as well. All right, and here's one more on the earthquake from WNG.org. Death toll from the earthquake. Now they're saying 1,600 on this article. This article is dated yesterday. Myanmar's ruling military said on Saturday that the death toll from Friday's earthquake has climbed to 1,644. So not a lot of information on this particular site, but again, we've got pictures and video coming up here on a Daily Mail article that I have pulled up. Utah first state to ban fluoride from public water supply. We mentioned the pride flags earlier. Now they're also doing away with fluoride. Well, what are you supposed to do? You're not going to be the good globalist state, Utah. What are you doing? You got to have your pride flags and your fluoride. Good grief. We all know this. So anyway, Governor Cox signed into law a bill on Thursday prohibiting the addition of fluoride to the public water supplies. He sounds like a conspiracy theorist to me. We all know it's not happening. And then 10 Commandments statue set to return to the Kentucky Capitol. New law took effect Thursday, authorizing the return of a granite monument engraved with the 10 Commandments to the Capitol grounds in the state capital of Frankfort in Kentucky. Republican-controlled House of Representatives and Senate passed the resolution, and it took effect without Governor's signature, Governor Beshear's signature. Senators approved the measure earlier this month after House Representatives passed the resolution in February. So, wow, they're putting the 10 Commandments back up, at least in Kentucky. There you go. Thought that was kind of interesting. All right, and then the Daily Mail article I mentioned is this one. And again, we'll link to this in the Substack post, so make sure you're on that list. Earthquake devastation. Probably won't play any of the video here. Many of you guys have probably already seen it, but it's pretty amazing. Just some of the magnitude, just the sheer devastation here. You can see all these buildings that are collapsed. I mean, these buildings were not made for any sort of, earthquake fortification at all. And there were some entire skyscrapers that just collapsed. Like this one. The one that I saw over and over from different angles was one that was being built. So workers running away from the building as it collapses. So there could have been people in the structure if they were working on the structure at the time, although it was not completed. But there were other buildings that collapsed. So you can see what a mess this is. Wow. And then this crane that collapsed, it basically doubled over and the whole top half of it fell. And in this particular one, there's video footage of it. I think you can see him. He's right here. The crane operator being thrown out of the falling crane. And this was in Bangkok. So this was in Thailand even, not even Myanmar. I've been to Thailand, by the way, years ago. Bangkok briefly, but then Chiang Mai, which is in the north of the country, but never been to Myanmar. It was too dangerous at that time, but at least for believers, you couldn't really go there and not be harassed at that point. I don't know if it's officially Myanmar still or if it's Burma. It's kind of gone back and forth between the two, but it's this particular crane though was in Bangkok, was in Thailand, so that's crazy. So there was a huge amount of destruction here. Here's the tower. Here's the building that collapsed that you can see from different angles as it drops to the ground. But again, it was under construction, so hopefully it wasn't full of people. Anyway, Daily Mail does seem to have some pretty good articles and videos on these types of stories. So, anyways, yeah, here it is. So here's Bangkok, way down here, and the main part of the earthquake, the epicenter, was right here around Mandalay. So Bangkok's way down here. Where I was up in this area in Chiang Mai, which is in the north part, not too far from Myanmar. That was several years back now, but anyway, be sure you keep these people in your prayer because, man, they have really been wrecked over there. Not good. All right, and then this one, mentioned this whole idea earlier. This is just another article on this. American food is the most toxic food on earth. Talking about seed oils. Most American food contains synthetic chemicals, preservatives, artificial flavors, GMOs, pesticides, hormones, and other toxic additives which contribute to preventable diseases and disorders. A century ago, diseases like cancer, diabetes, and autism were rare, largely due to the absence of processed foods and chemical-laden agriculture. Post-World War II, processed foods and synthetic remedies replaced natural diets and remedies. So yeah, we know where that's going. But anyway, this is an article from basedunderground.com. Pretty interesting. And then this one I'll just briefly touch on, but it's a Singularity Hub technology type of article. Technology has shaped human knowledge for centuries. Generative AI is set to transform it yet again. We stand on the brink of the next knowledge revolution. Yeah, but it will be the machines who have it, not so much the humans. So this is all about not just tech in general, but this is about generative AI in particular. Generative AI refers to deep learning models capable of generating human-like outputs, including text, images, video, and audio. Examples include ChatGPT, DALL-E, and DeepSeek. Today, this new technology promises to function as our personal librarian, reducing our need to search for a book, let alone open its cover. Visiting physical libraries for information has been unnecessary for a while, but generative AI means we no longer need to even scroll through the list of electronic sources. Trained on hundreds of billions of human words, AI can condense and synthesize vast amounts of information across a variety of authors, subjects, or time periods. A user can pose any question to their AI assistant and for the most part will receive a competent answer. Generative AI can sometimes, however, hallucinate, meaning it will deliver unreliable or false information, instead of admitting it doesn't know the answer. So there you go. Something to watch for. So anyway, generative AI, using generative AI wisely is part of this article. This is on SingularityHub.com is where this is. And then let's see here. Federalist article I came across. A third of all D.C. district judges were not born in the United States. How about that? Of all the judges in the U.S., all 5 foreign-born judges of the D.C. court managed to get their fingerprints on controversial Trump cases. Isn't that nice? The U.S. District Court for the District of Columbia, the source of many of the cases interfering with Trump's authority, has 15 judges, and 5 of them were born outside of the United States. While country of origin doesn't come up on most jobs, it's worth asking if judges with ties to foreign nations and cultures are the right ones to make decisions affecting the U.S. military or immigration. Well, there's that, right? Anyway, the concept of foreign-born judges is a newer phenomenon in this district. In addition to the 15 main judges, the D.C. district has 10 older senior judges who still occasionally hear cases in the district. The group, nominated as far back as Ronald Reagan in the 80s, were all born in the U.S. But starting in 2014, former President Obama appointed Judge Chutkan, born in Jamaica. She was the she was in the U.S. by 1979, attending George Washington University before sitting on federal court. She had no experience as a judge. Chutkan is overseeing the legal challenge to Doge's work to slash excess government spending. So, very interesting, huh? Interesting how they decide what judge gets what. That's on the Federalist. Yeah, we're making our way through all these tabs. We've got lots of them here. End of the American Dream. This is Michael Snyder's blog. 8 things that the mainstream media is being strangely quiet about right now. So my curiosity got to me a little, and I was wondering what the 8 things were. So if you're wondering, I'll just go ahead and list them for you. We won't read the whole article, but we'll talk about the 8. Number 1, unknown aircraft continue to fly with complete impunity over key military bases all over the United States. Number 2 here, the Department of Government Efficiency has discovered that the Small Business Administration made 5,593 loans to borrowers whose only listed owner was 11 years old or younger at the time of the loan. So that is one that was very similar to what we heard the Doge guys talking about earlier in the video clip. Number 3 here on the list, domestic terrorists just planted multiple incendiary devices at a Tesla dealership in Austin, but this incredibly alarming story has already disappeared from the news cycle. So I'm not too surprised about that one, just because obviously we have the summer of fiery fun coming up. So of course they're going to disappear that as soon as possible. Number 4, far-left radicals at anti-government rallies throughout the nation are openly calling for violence against government officials. Number 4. Number 5, there are plans to create a new Islamic city on 402 acres of land in Texas that would include over 1,000 houses and a mosque, a faith school, and a community college, and some sports facilities. So that's number 5, a new Islamic city in Texas. Goes with the illegals city that they have there. Number 6, the number of people living in the United States that were born outside of the country has reached the highest level ever recorded. So the population bomb. Wow. Yeah, because they've imported all the many millions of illegals. Number 7, during the partial solar eclipse that will happen on March 29th, so yesterday, many in North America will actually get to see solar horns. Did you know about the solar horns? There's something special about the partial solar eclipse on March 29th. I didn't even know there was one. For North Americans in the right place at the right time and who get clear skies, there's a chance to see a unique spectacle of solar horns, a phenomenon where the cusps of an eclipsed crescent sun appear as 2 distinct points above the horizon during the sunrise. Weird. So that was number 7. Number 8 on the list here of the top 8. An ancient 2,200-year-old pyramid-shaped structure has just been found in the middle of the Judean desert. This is an incredible archaeological discovery, but hardly anyone is talking about it. 2,200-year-old pyramid-shaped structure in the Judean desert. How about that? Excavation in the Judean desert unearthed a massive 2,200-year-old pyramid-shaped structure alongside ancient papyri, weapons, tools, and fabrics, which experts are calling one of the richest archaeological excavations in the area. So, very interesting. So those are some of the things that are mentioned here that the mainstream media is being strangely quiet about on this Michael Snyder blog post here on endoftheamericandream.com. All right, and then secret CIA files claim Ark of the Covenant has been found. So I read through this thinking that this probably was not going to really talk about anything except Ethiopia, because Ethiopia seems to be the modern day talking point. Most people are saying, "Oh, the Ark of the Covenant is in Ethiopia." I've never thought that, just because I've been someone who was tuned into the work of Ron Wyatt and his claims, and I personally believe are true, that the Ark of the Covenant was found right there in Jerusalem. It's right there. It's been there the whole time. And it's in Zedekiah's cave there. So I thought we'd look at that just a little bit closer, but first we'll look at this article on Daily Mail. This is posted on March 26th. Location of the chest believed to be the Ten Commandments has long been a mystery, but CIA documents claim that the Ark of the Covenant has been found. According to the Bible, the Ark of the Covenant was built by the Israelites shortly after they fled Egypt around the 13th century. Moses then placed the Ten Commandments inside. CIA conducted experiments in the 1980s with individuals who claimed they could perceive information about distant objects, events, or other people. That's remote viewing, by the way. The report details one of these tests was given coordinates to locate a target. They then described the Ark of the Covenant was hiding in the Middle East. So I saw that and I'm like, well, that's actually true. From what I understand, at least. Some historians believe the Ark of the Covenant was originally kept inside the Holy of Holies, the innermost chamber of the ancient Temple of Jerusalem, before it disappeared during the Babylonian sack of Jerusalem in 586 BC. There's also a legend that the artifact was taken to Ethiopia and now resides in a local church. See, that's the one. That seems to be the, or some version of that seems to be the more or less official narrative, although I don't buy that. Evidence suggests the chest exists, has yet to be found, but the CIA document declassifies in 2000 claims it was discovered in 1988. The target is a container. This container has another container inside of it, the document states. The target is fashioned of wood, gold, and silver, and it's decorated with a six-winged angel. The remote viewer continued to say that the coffin-shaped object is located somewhere in the Middle East and saw people in the area speaking Arabic. The remote viewer, however, was not told that they were searching for the lost covenant before the experiment began. So here is one of the documents that was released, approved for release 2000 on 8/8/2000, so August 8th. Date of the session was December of 88. So 1988 was when this session was. Access and describe the target identified by the coordinates. And then says training target 0209 is the Ark of the Covenant. So again, this is the document that was released. The recently resurfaced CIA document claims that the Ark of the Covenant has been found and may lie somewhere in the Middle East. Interesting that they're saying in 1988 it was located. Ron Wyatt officially found the Ark in 1982 in Zedekiah's Cave. Just going off of what his reports stated. Let's see here. I'm kind of jumping ahead. CIA document, a remnant of the mysterious Project Sunstreak, suggests U.S. government has known where the Ark is for years. Yeah, and I would suggest that the Israeli Antiquities Authority has known as well for many years, since 1982 at least. And then they've got a shot here, a screenshot of the Raiders of the Lost Ark film. And then here's another document that was released. The date of the document itself is December 1988 as well. Approved for release in 2000. Talking in a little bit more detail about the actual target, meaning the Ark itself. Remote viewer claimed the Ark was hidden somewhere underground in the Middle East and that it is protected by entities who will destroy those who attempt to break into it. So that right there tells me that is true. That this is referring to, I think, what Ron found. It's protected by entities who will destroy those who attempt to break into it. According to Ron Wyatt, there are at least a couple different angels who are always with it, who are at their posts all the time and protecting the Ark. So maybe that's true. Notice it says protected by entities, quote unquote. It doesn't say people. The psychic projected their consciousness beyond their body to search for the sacred artifact, writing down his observations as they went. What he wrote was bone-chilling. Target is located in the Middle East. Language spoken is Arabic. Looking to see if there's any other details. The psychic described nearby buildings that resembled mosque domes and individuals clothed in virtually all white. How about that? Virtually all white. With black hair and dark eyes. One figure I honed in on wore a mustache, they wrote. The target is hidden underground. Dark and wet were all aspects of the location of the target. So I'm just reading this for the first time with you guys. So that tells me it's in a cave. Zedekiah's cave, which is what I've been saying. So the target is hidden. It's underground. Dark and wet were all aspects of the location of the target. The purpose of the target is to bring a people together. It has something to do with ceremony, memory, homage, and resurrection. The resurrection. Yeah, because remember, the mercy seat sits on top of the Ark of the Covenant, and that all sits 20 feet below where the cross was, where Jesus was crucified. And the blood and the water that ran out of Jesus' body flowed down through the cracks in the escarpment right there, where his cross was, flowed down through the ground there, 20 feet down onto the mercy seat, directly below where Jesus was crucified. That's the story. That's the story that Ron Wyatt talks about. And he discovered all this in 1982. Let's see here. The psychic goes on to say that as time comes, the mechanics of the lock system will be found to be fairly simple, and that anyone who attempts to open the container by prying or striking will be destroyed by the container's protectors through the use of a power unknown to us. Yes, that would be God. Remote viewer made this sketch of a white mosque with a domed top and windows. I don't know what that is exactly. They also sketched 8 stick figures lined up against a wall, labeling them mummies. Toward the end of the document, the remote viewer sketched a winged creature with a tall beak and talons and labeled it Ceridin. Not sure what the mummies would be. Anyway, I found that really interesting, and the Ron Wyatt story is all here, ronwyatt.com, and where he goes into this is Ron here. He goes into the details of how it all happened and where the story started in 1978, as far as his trips back and forth from Nashville, where he lived, over to Jerusalem. And this is the whole adventure here. This is him finding it in 1982, and there's several pages here to read through. And if you don't want to read through all that, though, there are a couple videos here that have kind of a condensed version of what happened. But several years ago, I made a video myself on some of those details, and I know many of you guys who found out about the Diamond Report much later probably haven't seen these videos, and that's fine. For those of you who have, I thought we'd watch just a couple-minute refresher here on this, and I thought I would play a little bit of this because I wanted to show you guys what's out there as far as the details surrounding where the Ark of the Covenant is actually located. It's there. It's been known about for a long time. Now, this video I produced and uploaded originally on 12/24/2020. So this video is that old. 4 years and some change. So let's watch just a little bit of this, and I will, come back and we'll go into it a little bit further. But I thought it was really interesting, and some of the details on this website, if you want to follow along, it's arkdiscovery.com, arkdiscovery.com, and it's talking about Zedekiah's cave. So let's listen in just a little bit here. This is me from about almost 5 years ago now. This I think you'll find very interesting. Go to my friend Kevin Fisher's website. It's arkdiscovery.com. When you get there, click on at the top, you can click on Ark of the Covenant. It takes you right to this page. And in this section of the website, you will find some incredible information. And obviously I can't go through every single page here on this video, or it'd be way too long, but just know that it's here if you want to read through it. I'm going to read through some of what I consider as the highlights just so you kind of have it in the background here, and you'll see how it kind of interplays and how it mixes in well with the video clips that I've already shown. I would definitely recommend visiting the Finding the Ark page. It's a really good, basic information about exactly how things happened, how they transpired, and also it has a link to the video that we watched a little while ago. For instance, on this page is the picture of Golgotha, the place of the skull. You can see the 2 eye sockets and the nose. That's the crucifixion site, folks. Here's a side view, the nose there. Pretty amazing. There's also a close-up of the cross hole of Jesus and where the cross was, and this is where the blood flowed through after the earthquake happened. And you may remember Ron mentioning that at the time of the resurrection there was another earthquake, and he believed during that earthquake is when the rocks closed back up, at least to the point where no more rain or anything else would be allowed to wash away Jesus' blood on the mercy seat. So God closed it up just like he opened it. In this picture you can see Kevin standing here at this cutout, which is where the sign Jesus of Nazareth, King of the Jews, would have been placed. Now he's quite a few feet above where the actual cross hole is. The cross holes are quite a few feet below him under all this dirt now. But you can get an idea at least of the layout of some of this area. Here's one of the cracks from the earthquake coming down the escarpment there. And again, you can scroll through this page just by going to arkdiscovery.com. I want to show you one of the most important things on this page, in my opinion. I do like this diagram. This is a side view. Now here's the cutout. This is basically about where, or right in here maybe, was about where Kevin was standing. You can see how much was below that's been filled in. Now this is the rolling stone from the garden tomb, the stone that was rolled away when Jesus was resurrected. It's been moved over to here. Now keep in mind too, this is just right around the corner from the garden tomb. It's only just like, I think it's 80 feet or something. It's not very far away. It's all right there in one little area. So what we're looking at here is a side view. This is the cross hole right here. You can see where the rocks that were rent, the hole was ripped here in the bedrock, and the blood was allowed to flow down to the ark. The ark was in this stone box 20 feet below the cross hole. These were the other lower cross holes, 2 of which would have had the other 2 people that were crucified, the other 2 men that were crucified with Jesus. So it gives you a good layout, a good indication of what that's all about. This to me is probably the most important diagram on this page. This is the Tabernacle of Witness, or the Ark Cave, or the Cave Temple, whatever you want to call it, that Ron visited again in 1990 or so. He went there on his 4th trip, and that's when everything had been cleaned up and moved around by God's angels. The Ark Cave drawing was done by Jesslyn Johnson, who was a friend of Ron Wyatt's and believed in what he was doing. And note that Jesslyn made this drawing just in March of this year, 2020. Notice that the ark is positioned up against the eastern wall and no longer along the northern wall. Christ will be returning from the east and on the Mount of Olives, east of this location. So here you have the ark, right here, and here's the crystal wall behind it. The ark is backed up to the 12-foot wall to the east, with colors of the rainbow emanating from it. The ark is 4 feet, 3.5 inches long without the angels. Here's the angel here and here. They're on the ends of the mercy seat. It is 2 feet 7 inches wide. Crystal-like wall is 12 feet wide by 18 feet tall. So here you have the wall behind the ark, and immediately in front of the ark is the altar of incense, 21 inches square, 3 feet 3 inches tall, directly before the ark. You know, I'll leave it up to you guys to go back and watch that whole thing if you want. We just watched just a few minutes of it, but man, there's some incredible details about the Ark of the Covenant, and it's really interesting to me, I think, that this Daily Mail article came out now, because I've been saying personally that I think that I wouldn't call it imminent, but I do think that there will be some sort of revealing of the Ark before too long. Probably in some sort of earthquake type of situation, or perhaps war situation that either destroys or seriously damages the Al-Aqsa Mosque and the Dome of the Rock, because I think we're getting close to that time where the Israelis are going to be screaming, "Hey, look, it's God's will. The Dome of the Rock is damaged and has to be torn down, and so is the mosque and all this stuff, so we can build our temple." I really feel like that's where it's going, although it's hard to know for sure. True Nature says, Doug, why do you think the CIA released that Ark information right now? Sorry if I missed your theory. Well, that's kind of what I was going into right this moment, actually. Yeah, it's End Times Dates video 8. Emily says that's correct. That is the video we were just watching a clip from. I don't know. I mean, it's possible that they're getting ready to do something like this in Jerusalem. And while I'm talking about all of those details, let's look at where we're actually talking about here. This is the red marker here is Zedekiah's cave. That is what Ron Wyatt has always stated, that is where the location is. That is where we saw in that video where the cross holes were. 20 feet below the cross holes in Zedekiah's cave is where the Ark of the Covenant lies. And it's still there today, because the Israelis can't touch it. They can't go move it. They can't. God won't allow it. But they do know that that's where it is. So that, to me, kind of proves the whole point with, the fact that they know where it is. Maybe that's why they're putting out stories like this now, getting people talking about it, because I think that there's going to be some move at some point here pretty soon on all of this, and that it will come out. So anyway, as far as its location, you can see Zedekiah's cave is right here. So you could basically say this red marker is where the Ark of the Covenant is. Here's Temple Mount. And if I zoom in just a little, you'll see the Dome of the Rock and Al-Aqsa Mosque is right here beside each other on Temple Mount, right? Well, the city of David, we've gone over this many times, but I'll reiterate again. Don't want to be boring here, but the city of David right here, just down the hill from the Temple Mount, the city of David is actually where the first two temples were. They weren't on Temple Mount. They were not right here. They were just down the road. I should say they're just down the hill a little bit from where the Temple Mount is. So you can see this is where the mosque is. This area right here is the city of David. And you may remember from my other videos, the Gihon Springs. This is the Gihon Springs right there. Right here. So it's all right here. And you can see that if the first two temples were indeed in the city of David, right in this area, and that is where the Ark of the Covenant was, it only had to be taken from here to right here. And that is only, just like a few thousand feet, really. It's not very far. So it's all right here together. City of David, Temple Mount, Zedekiah's cave, the Ark of the Covenant sits right there, but they can't touch it. So again, it's all right there, really, really close. And I personally expect that there will be some earthquake, whether it's human-derived from tectonic weapons, or some war situation where it gets damaged. I don't know which, but it'll probably be one or the other. It's my guess that something will happen here with the mosque and the Dome of the Rock, one or the other, or probably both, here on Temple Mount. And it will be enough that if it's an earthquake, for instance, you could see where it wouldn't take much for it to also affect this area over here and perhaps knock down the wall. There's a wall in the Zedekiah's cave that's walled off the entrance to where the actual ark is. So it could knock down the wall in the cave and then also damage the Dome of the Rock and the Al-Aqsa Mosque. It's possible that one tectonic weapon could be used in that area that could generate those sorts of consequences, and then the Israelis will be saying, see, look, it's God's will. We have to build the temple now because the mosque is damaged and the Dome of the Rock is damaged, or whatever. And look, it's also revealed at the same time the Ark of the Covenant, it's in this cave. We just didn't know it when they've actually known it since 1982. So anyway, that's kind of my hypothesis. I have no idea if that's actually going to happen, but I can see it playing out that way for sure. And again, this video that we watched here, this End Times Dates video, part 8, has a lot of detail on Ark of the Covenant, and obviously you could visit ronwyatt.com as well and get more information there. So I wanted to mention all that. I thought it was really good information, and to me it all makes sense. It fits biblically with what I personally know and believe, and then also it fits biblically with what Ron Wyatt talks about, and how, you know, he was the discoverer of the blood on the mercy seat, that he had it tested, and that he could confirm in the lab tests from various labs across the world that the blood that was tested was a special type of blood. It was human blood, but it didn't have the normal 46 chromosomes that human blood has. It only had 24. Normally you'd have 23 chromosomes from the mother and 23 chromosomes from the father, so you'd have 46 chromosomes, right? Well, this blood that Ron had tested in 3 different labs across the world, one in Jerusalem, and another lab in Germany, in Berlin, I believe, and another lab in East Tennessee, in Knoxville. And the conclusion was that instead of the human blood having 46 chromosomes, it had 24. It had 23 chromosomes from the mother and 1 Y chromosome from the father, which is God. So it didn't have human chromosomes for the father. It only had the Y chromosome to make Jesus male. So it proved that the blood from that person had no earthly father, only an earthly mother, is what I'm saying. It could be no one else's blood. So it's an amazing story, and I think that only God would reveal that type of information. It's not something that humans are going to necessarily think of to make a buck off of the story. You know what I mean? Yeah, and it was still alive. Yeah, they reconstituted the blood, and it was still alive. So that was the amazing part of the story, and Ron talks about it in, I don't know if it's in this video, but it's certainly in some of his other videos. Just do a search on YouTube for Ron Wyatt, and you'll find all kinds of really good information. So anyway, I wanted to pass all that along to you guys. It's kind of long, but good info, I think. All right, well, let's keep moving here so we're not keeping you guys all night. All right, this is another website that I found last week that I thought had some pretty good articles on it. I don't know exactly who is behind the website, but it seems to be pretty good. I could tell it's a Canadian website. It's called Iron Wire, and I mentioned an article from them last week. This one is as well. There's a video embedded as well, but it's called Green Gaslighting, How Smart Cities Will Force Your Compliance. Green gaslighting. So many of these articles on this site have videos embedded, so it's like a little news report plus actual links and text information as well. The globalists who want to control us all have been working for decades to put the pieces of their authoritarian power structure in place, but unlike past totalitarian dictators, they're not going to rely on force or even the threat of force because they don't have to. The reason they continue to push the global warming lie is for control, by convincing people that driving or using energy or having children is bad for the environment, and that if we don't take drastic measures right now, the earth will become uninhabitable. They obtain the willing compliance of a large percentage of the population. Why take away people's rights and freedoms when you can convince them to willingly give them up? But what about the rest of us, those of us who know the real science that man-made global warming via CO2 emissions is impossible? How do they control us? So I don't necessarily agree with all of that. That's just I'm reading from this particular story, but you can see kind of where they're going with it. And personally, I think global warming is man-made, and that it is real. It's actually happening, and it's called geoengineering. Geoengineering is, to me, what's actually going on in creating the climate crisis that they keep touting and keep talking about, that it does exist, but it's created by their own fleets of planes spraying billions of toxic tons of chemicals in the sky all the time. Certainly hundreds and hundreds of millions every year. So anyway, green gaslighting is the article that's pulled up here, and then one more from the same site, Iron Wire. It's ironwiredaily.com is the site. Israel desperately needs the U.S. to wage war on Iran to rescue Netanyahu. Ex-diplomat warns. So, yeah, in a powerful interview with former CIA analyst Larry Johnson, an unusually empathetic Alastair Crook explains how and why a desperate Israel is attempting to lead the U.S. into war with Iran. Crook is a 20-year veteran of managing Israeli-Arab peace negotiations, says that the U.S. is pursuing a decapitation strategy both in Yemen and Iran modeled on Israel's strikes against the leadership of Hamas. Crook says not only that this won't work, he also warns it may trigger a major war. Strikes on Iran are planned for the spring, he says, whatever that means, by an Israeli delegation in Washington. Spring. That would be now. So, wow. Why the rush? Crook says the international and 10-year-old agreement on the Iranian nuclear program expires in October of this year, and the Israelis say that the strikes can't wait. This agreement, known as the JCPOA, has a snapback provision, meaning sanctions will automatically be applied to Iran in the absence of compliance, which is something we kind of touched on a little bit ago, as far as what Trump's tough talk with Iran had to do with, if you may remember. UK government statement explained in October of 2024, if Donald Trump withdrew the U.S. from the JCPOA in 2018, which saw Iran resume its nuclear activities after disagreements derailed a promising start to the attempted cooperation to halt them. Crook points out the fact that the U.S. tore up its own government with Iran will be understood by the Russians as a warning in any negotiations over peace in Ukraine. Putin has a constituency too, and the constituency will say, look, the Americans had an agreement with Iran. They walked away from that agreement. They tore it up. The JCPOA, not the Iranians. So I think they're saying that Americans can't be trusted, so why bother signing a peace deal? Maybe what they're getting at there. Israel desperately needs war with Iran. So this is a pretty good article, very lengthy. It's got quite a bit of info here, and we're taking a look at. And they may be right. So war this spring. So that could be just about any time. Well, we'll see where it goes, won't we? Not good. Leo Hohmann had an article as well about the British Commonwealth and Charles and Trump. Trump makes bizarre statement about U.S. joining British Commonwealth of Nations as associate member, says, I love King Charles. So we talked about that last week and in the beginning of this show as well. So we won't get into that again, but it is all here if you guys want to look at Leo's article about that, leohohmann.com. AI weather model outperforms traditional forecasts, boosts accuracy by 20%. The ECMWF's AI forecasting system. Now that stands for the European Center for Medium Range Weather Forecasts. Is now fully operational, outperforming traditional methods by up to 20% in accuracy. Uses machine learning to predict weather faster, including cyclone paths 12 hours earlier than conventional models. The system aids renewable energy plans with forecasts for solar radiation and wind speeds at 100 meters. It collaborates globally, sharing open source tools to advance AI weather modeling, and experts stress AI complements, not replaces human expertise, with potential to extend forecast limits beyond 15 days. So yeah, I'm sure they've been using AI with weather for a long time, but interesting that it's coming more toward the public use of it here, at least, as reported on naturalnews.com. A few articles from the Gateway Pundit. Canadian Liberal PM Mark Carney under fire for resurrected ties to Ghislaine Maxwell and Prince Andrew. So we were talking about Carney at the beginning of the show tonight. Labour leader and Canadian Prime Minister has I don't think he's officially the Canadian Prime Minister yet, has entered a troubling phase in his new political career since the former Bank of England had dissolved the Parliament and called for snap elections. It's one scandal after another. Mere days after Carney was accused of plagiarizing his doctoral thesis at Oxford, he's now getting heckled over his links to Jeffrey Epstein's accomplice, Ghislaine Maxwell. So how about that? So it just never ends, does it? Here he is pictured with her. So, yep, who knows? It's a big club and we ain't in it. But we don't want to be in it, do we? Reparations movement for J6 victims gains momentum. I think this is a good plan. These people do need to be reimbursed for all of their stuff that they had to endure for all those years. Now that many J6 political prisoners have gained freedom through pardons issued by Trump, the movement is legally seeking reparations for victims of the government's 4-year witch hunt. It's rapidly gaining momentum. So these are some of the lawyers involved, I guess. These law firms and lawyers have joined forces to pursue financial compensation for the hundreds of American patriots who were persecuted, imprisoned, and stripped of their rights following the Capitol protests on January 6, 2021. Now, a team of experienced lawyers and strategic thinkers and dedicated advocates at the American Rights Alliance is joining the fight, stepping in to accelerate the mission. Today, it's turned its focus toward helping the victims of January 6 regain what they've lost. Yeah, I mean, and that's, I don't think, I mean, monetarily, I guess they could certainly help these people, make them whole, as they say. So, I don't know. I'm not sure if that'll happen or not, but certainly needs to. So, reparations movement for J6ers is underway. And then this one, Mississippi abolishes the state income tax in historic win for working families and economic freedom. So, way to go, Mississippi. I hope they get the IRS on that track as well. Mississippi has officially abolished its state income tax, positioning itself as a leader in the movement for economic freedom and limited government. Signed it into law on Friday, declaring it a generational victory and a bold new chapter for working families, entrepreneurs, and freedom-loving Americans across the South. So way to go, Mississippi. Says there are 9 states in the U.S. that do not impose a state income tax: Alaska, Florida, Nevada, New Hampshire, South Dakota, Tennessee, Texas, Washington, and Wyoming, and now Mississippi. So that is amazing, and that is really good news for Mississippians. Yeah, all right. And then I thought this one was another bit of good news here. Look at this. You guys might remember this guy. The Trump effect. Lazy, illegal alien influencer who coached other invaders how to take over homes and invoke squatters' rights has now been deported to communist Venezuela. Good riddance. Anyway, they sent him back. Leonel Moreno was sent back to Venezuela this week after President Trump struck a deal to resume deportation flights to the country. So he was on the plane. Send him back. That's what I say. All right, and then Democrat New York State Senator introduces a bill that would ban Tesla dealerships in the state. Makes perfect sense to me. Why wouldn't you? I mean, after all, Elon Musk owns like 12%, right? Can't have that. Patricia Fay, a Democrat state senator in New York, is introducing legislation that would effectively ban Tesla dealerships in the state. It's the same party that has tried to force Americans to buy electric cars. Now, this Democrat is trying to make it impossible for people to buy one. Have all Democrats gone completely insane? Is that a rhetorical question? Because it seems pretty obvious to me. Anyway, yeah. They want you to buy electric cars. You can't have gas-powered cars anymore, but we're going to take the electric cars away from you so you can't buy them. So there you go. But you still have to buy one. I guess you could buy one from the people who are being forced to sell their Teslas, because if they don't, the people on the left will berate them. We talked about that last week, how liberal people can't possibly understand economics because they're yelling at these people who own Teslas to go sell their Tesla, like that'll fix it. But who are they going to sell their Tesla to that the crazy liberal won't also yell at and tell them to sell their Tesla? So figure that one out. It's a vicious circle. They have not put any thought into it. It's pretty safe to say that. All right, and then Gateway Pundit article as well. This is more about the JFK thing, but it's on Gateway Pundit too, and there's some more information. Rep Luna says video shows Oswald near JFK's limousine when the shots were fired in Dallas, Texas, claimed that if verified would make it physically impossible for him to have been the shooter from the 6th floor of the depository. Yeah, so I mentioned that earlier. This just has a little bit more detail, a little more information in it on the Gateway Pundit. And then this one, I mentioned this last week too, the meme that lives forever. Unhinged New York City leftist who went viral after receiving instant karma while trying to steal a Trump supporter's MAGA hat has been identified. And remember, I said last week she's probably going to be very famous because she's the girl who is chasing down this guy who outruns her and she falls flat on her face, does a face plant. Well, her name's Alberta Testanaro. There you go. She calls herself an experienced team leader has a keen understanding of the relationship between corporate strategy and creative vision and maintains the highest standards. So there she is. Anyway, just thought I would follow up on the woman who fell on her face here, did a face plant. She has removed her LinkedIn account. I'm not sure if she was ever on X, but it says she's 55-year-old dual citizen, but she's an Italian American, not an Israeli American. So there you go. Paper also notes that she is an agitated creative director for several luxury brands, including Tiffany, Coach, Bergdorf Goodman, and Kate Spade. Testanaro describes herself on her since-deleted LinkedIn account as an award-winning creative director, photo art director, and designer with over 20 years of experience in the industry. And now she is infamous for being the woman who falls flat on her face, chasing a kid with a MAGA hat. And then yet again, another close call, this one in D.C. again. Delta plane nearly crashes into an Air Force jet at DCA, which is Reagan International, right? Yeah, Reagan Washington National Airport, DCA, after the January helicopter collision. So you see this picture and you see the headline and you think, oh, well, they're just giving us more information on what happened with the helicopter and plane collision back in January. But no, this is yet another close call. Delta Airlines plane nearly collided midair with a T-38 Air Force jet. So you can see they're two completely different planes, but it's Delta again, which Delta's been in the news a lot lately with the woke near mishaps or certainly fiery mishaps where they flipped a plane over up in Canada and stuff. That was also a Delta Airlines brand as well. Delta Airlines plane nearly collided midair with a Air Force jet near Ronald Reagan Washington National Airport on Friday in an incident that the FAA is investigating. So they're looking into it. They hope they figure it out. 131 passengers and 5 crew members were reportedly on board the flight to Minneapolis-St. Paul as the 4 T-38 jets performed a flyover several miles from the airport. So they're still at it. This is going to happen again. The near collision occurred due to a loss of separation, meaning the aircraft were closer to each other than allowed by minimum safety standards. Notably, this comes 2 months after an American Airlines flight collided with the military helicopter, claiming 67 lives at DCA. And they're at it again. This airline had 131 passengers and 5 crew on it. So luckily nothing happened, but it was another close call. The radical left is blaming Trump for FAA staffing shortages. And they've said multiple times, not only Musk and Trump, but many other people have said with great fervor here that they haven't fired a single staffing type of person at the FAA. In fact, they're trying to hire people. They haven't fired anyone. And yet the left is still out there saying that they're cutting FAA staff. And that's not what's going on at all. Yeah, it says the Under Biden, the FAA turned away 1,000 air traffic controller applicants because of the Marxist DEI policies. So there were 1,000 people that applied for jobs who could have been effective in those roles, but because they didn't have the right skin color and sexual preferences, they were not even considered. So there you go. But it's still Donald Trump's fault. Anyway, yep, another close call, and then another fiery but peaceful plane crash. Watch. Plane crashes into house in Brooklyn Park, Minnesota. Single-engine plane crashed into at least one home in Brooklyn Park, Minnesota on Saturday afternoon, setting a massive fire in the neighborhood. It's unknown how many people were on board the plane when it crashed. There's no official word yet if anyone has survived the crash or was injured at the time of this publication of this story. Well, it crashed right into the house and burned it up, so my guess is somebody got hurt and or were killed. So that's crazy. Anyway, yet another airline incident. Oh, this is an airplane incident. All right, and then this one, watch, uncrewed German Spectrum rocket fails and falls back to the ground and explodes 40 seconds after launch. So I was just thinking this must be because SpaceX wasn't involved, I guess. Or maybe NASA was involved. I don't know. I mean, if it crashed. So here's the footage. There's no sound to this video. I just thought I would play it because it's really pretty amazing. I guess probably 4K video footage from a drone, and you can see it taking off and then, doing a nosedive and falling back to Earth. So we'll watch it here in slow-mo. I'll just talk over the top of it. Yeah, peaceful plane crash. Isn't that an oxymoron? Yeah, that's the whole point of it. It's a fiery but peaceful plane crash. Well, this one is a fiery but peaceful rocket crash. We'll be able to see it here in just a second. You can see it's a pretty good liftoff here on the rocket, but it starts going a little bit haywire about right there when it flips over and starts accelerating downward as fast as possible and goes right smack down into the water right next to, boom, where it took off. Fiery but peaceful. See? There you go. Anyway, yeah, Elon Musk had nothing to do with it, but I'm guessing somebody somewhere is already blaming him for it because it is a rocket after all. So it's his fault. So yeah, that was the Germans. Remember, the Germans are good at building stuff. It says for decades, the German people have been renowned for their engineering prowess. Association with precision and innovation and durability. You'd hear phrases like German engineering is not just a skill, it's a philosophy of perfection. It's not a job, it's an art form. In the area of rocket design and construction, it was not any different. The genius pioneer Werner von Braun, taken from Nazi Germany to erect the first NASA projects. But that was then. This is now, with deindustrializing Teutons devolving from their former glory. Today, a German rocket test supposed to kickstart the European satellite launches fell back to the ground and exploded 40 seconds after its launch from a Norwegian spaceport. Come to think of it, the perfect symbolic image of the country's current situation. Yes. Falling back down to Earth and exploding in a ball of fire. I guess that was what it was. Anyway, that was another Gateway Pundit article. I think that was the last of those. Now, this one, I pulled this page up only because this website has tons of video in it. I guess I can, let me mute this. So I'll just talk over the top of this. This is NEOM, or as I've called it before, NEOM. I think it's pronounced NEOM, actually. And, it's the smart city. It's the line over in Saudi Arabia. So what I wanted to mention tonight really was that I had some thoughts on this, and I wanted to see, I really felt like I needed to visit this website for some reason. I don't know why, but then I'll tell you why in just a second. The whole idea of this line is that they are building this smart city effectively through a portion of Saudi Arabia right there. So you can see it, and you can see that it's got all of the, UN and World Economic Forum, different pieces that they push, all of the environmentalism part of it, and the fact that it's to really keep humanity in check. And so this video is just the video on their homepage, and I don't know that there's really all that much new information about the construction of the line here on the website on NEOM, and it's just neom.com if you guys want to check out the website. It's quite interesting, and there's a lot of video embedded here, which again makes it a little hard to deal with on the live stream here. But what I wanted to show you guys was my input here into Grok. I asked Grok about something in particular that I realized with Saudi Arabia being where NEOM is, and or NEOM, however you say it. So I remembered that recently President Trump's team went to Saudi Arabia, and then that reminded me about that crazy video that Trump reposted on his Truth Social account about the Gaza 2030 or whatever it was, where he had the gold statue and all that stuff that happened. So what I was trying to do was see if there was any connection to any of this. So here's what I asked Grok. So the question was, who from President Trump's team recently went to Saudi Arabia for meetings about the war in Ukraine? You guys might remember that just recently happened. So here is what the response was from Grok with 15 web pages of different references here. So it is referenced in case you guys want to look this up. And I'll include the link to this post on my Substack. So this is something that you would have to be on the Substack to get the link to this post, because it's not a public page anywhere else, really. It's just a link here that I'm providing on the live stream. So the question was, who from President Trump's team recently went to Saudi Arabia for meetings about the war in Ukraine? So the response was, recently, members of Trump's team who traveled to Saudi Arabia for meetings regarding the war in Ukraine included Secretary of State Marco Rubio, National Security Advisor Mark Waltz. Mike Waltz is the guy who is front and center in this whole deal with Signal and the whole thing that happened with, they're calling Signalgate, with the information that was exposed and so forth. We didn't really cover that tonight because it's a little bit of a non-starter, I think, but Mike Waltz was on that trip. And also Middle East envoy Steve Witkoff. These officials have been involved in various discussions aimed at addressing the conflict, with Rubio and Waltz notably participating in talks with Ukrainian and Russian delegations in March 2025. Witkoff has also been highlighted for his role in facilitating negotiations, including meetings with both U.S. and Russian officials in Saudi Arabia to push for a ceasefire and peace process. So my question then to Grok was, is there any public information or agenda items stating that any of those same people met with the leaders of the NEOM project? Because I figured that Grok would know about NEOM, and indeed it does. It says, there is no specific public information or agenda items explicitly stated that Secretary of State Marco Rubio, National Security Advisor Mike Waltz, or Middle East envoy Steve Witkoff met with leaders of the NEOM project during their meeting trips to Saudi Arabia in March 2025 related to the Ukraine war discussions. Their visits, as reported, were primarily focused on diplomatic efforts concerning the Russia-Ukraine conflict, with meetings involving Ukrainian officials, Russian counterparts, and Saudi leadership such as Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. And that name really rings a bell for me because he's the guy that started NEOM. Now, it goes on here. It says the NEOM project, a massive futuristic city initiative led by Saudi Arabia under Vision 2030, is overseen by various executives and is a significant part of the country's economic diversification strategy spearheaded by Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. While Rubio, Waltz, and Witkoff met with the Crown Prince during their visits, Rubio on March 10th, 2025 in Jeddah, and earlier in February in Riyadh alongside Waltz and Witkoff. The publicly available details of these meetings center on geopolitical discussions, Ukraine and Gaza ceasefire, rather than the NEOM project specifically, given that NEOM is a high-profile endeavor closely associated with the Crown Prince. It is plausible it could have been mentioned informally or as a broader economic context during these high-level talks, especially since Saudi Arabia often highlights Vision 2030 projects to international partners. However, no official statements, press releases, or agenda items from sources like the U.S. State Department, the Saudi government, or NEOM's own news outlets, e.g. neom.com, which is the site we were just looking at, confirms discussions about NEOM involving these individuals during these specific trips. The focus remained on the Ukrainian peace process, with Rubio emphasizing ceasefire proposals and diplomatic negotiations in his public remarks, which that's all not surprising really to me. If such a meeting occurred, it might not have been publicized, as diplomatic agendas often include unannounced topics, or it could be buried in classified briefings. Without explicit evidence, though, it remains speculative based on current public data. So then my next question here, the last question for Grok was, is the NEOM project tied to the Gaza 2030 project? Might Trump be interested in taking part in either of those projects? Because I wanted to see what it says about all of that. It says there's no direct publicly confirmed tie between Saudi Arabia's NEOM project and the so-called Gaza 2030 project, but let's break it down based on what's known as of March 30th, as of today. NEOM is a $500 billion futuristic megacity project in northwestern Saudi Arabia, part of Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman's Vision 2030 to diversify the kingdom's economy away from oil. It's a physical development, think high-tech urban sprawl along the Red Sea, with ambitions for 9 million residents eventually, though current projections have scaled back to 300,000 by 2030 and just 2.4 kilometers of its planned 170-kilometer line completed by then. So you got the line, which is the smart city. It's all in one big, long, straight line, right? And it was supposed to be 170 kilometers long, but they've only got 2.4 kilometers of it planned because they had to cut it way back. Anyway, let me keep going. It's a Saudi-led initiative heavily funded by their public investment fund and has faced scrutiny for its feasibility in human rights issues like the displacement of the Hawatat tribe. Yeah, there's a group of natives that live in that area and they're going to have to move them. So that's not good. Gaza 2030, quote unquote, is not an official unified project in the same sense. The term has popped up in different contexts. One is speculative. Israeli proposal from Netanyahu's circle floated in mid-2024, imagining a post-war Gaza rebuilt as a commercial hub, possibly linked to NEOM via a high-speed rail. How about that? After displacing Palestinians. This idea, criticized as a distraction from ethnic cleansing, relies on firms like AECOM and aligns with Saudi-style spectacle, but lacks concrete backing. Separately, Egypt's $53 billion Gaza reconstruction plan, endorsed by Arab leaders in March 2025, aims to rebuild Gaza for Palestinians without displacement, countering Trump's takeover vision. It's a political and humanitarian framework, not a flashy mega project like NEOM. Are they tied? Not explicitly. The Netanyahu Gaza 2035 vision flirted with a NEOM connection. Geographically, NEOM's near the Gulf of Aqaba, not far from Gaza, but it's more of a conceptual echo than a formal partnership. Saudi Arabia's denied past rumors of direct collaboration with Israel on NEOM, like the 2020 Netanyahu MBS meetings reports. And their rejection of Trump's Gaza expulsion plan suggests that they're not keen on merging these narratives. Egypt's plan, meanwhile, has no NEOM linkage. It's about keeping Palestinians in Gaza, not integrating with Saudi projects. The only thread is regional ambition. Both NEOM and a hypothetical Gaza 2030 reflect modernizing impulses, but they're distinct in scope, funding, and politics. Trump's interest, ? He's shown a clear real estate developer's eye for Gaza. Since February 2025, he's pushed a Riviera of the Middle East idea, wanting the U.S. to own and redevelop Gaza after moving Palestinians out, a plan met with global backlash. By March, he has softened to a recommendation, not an enforcement. And get this, but his AI-generated video of a glitzy Gaza with golden statues of himself screams Trumpian branding. NEOM's futuristic allure might appeal to him. $600 billion in potential U.S. investments was floated by Saudis in February 2025, but there's no evidence he's eyed it directly. His focus has been on Gaza, not Saudi Arabia's sandbox. Could he want in? Sure, if it meant a splashy deal or personal gain. He's a businessman who loves unbelievable places, quote unquote. But NEOM's Saudi-controlled and Gaza is a geopolitical mess. His administration lacked the bandwidth or leverage to tie them together. Speculation about him joining either rests on his pattern of chasing bold, shiny projects, though not hard proof. So there you go. Anyway, I thought that was all really interesting, and there are and there are not some ties between Gaza 2030 and NEOM, and between Trump and NEOM, as far as what Grok is telling us here. So I thought that was really interesting, and just giving you an update a little bit on the NEOM project. It is still going on, still being built. It's scaled way back, but I knew that it was not that far away from Gaza, and more importantly, the Trump administration folks have recently been to Saudi Arabia, meeting with the king, meeting with the head dude there. So yeah, we'll see where it goes. I don't know that anything will happen with that. I just thought it was an interesting. I guess he's the crown prince. I think it's interesting though, just that the way Grok sort of kind of connected a few of those dots for us. So very interesting. All right, and then notthebee.com. This is yet again another Utah story. So for you Utah fans out there, you know who you are. Watch as Salt Lake City tears down a George Floyd mural. It says, no, this was not done out of malice. Nature is just healing. So I'll rewind it, but you can see the giant claw tearing it down. Here it goes. So obviously, Floyd is not the only face on that wall, but it says this vacant lot is called Fleet Block, owned by the city, and has been scheduled for demolition for a while. Thought that was pretty interesting. That's on Not the Bee. A couple of the headlines on InfoWars. Just about ready to wrap it up here tonight. We got GOP headquarters in Albuquerque, New Mexico, torched in deliberate arson attack. The entrance to the Republican Party of New Mexico's headquarters in Albuquerque was destroyed in a deliberate act of arson Sunday morning. The message ICE equals KKK was spray painted on the building. So I say they go arrest somebody, don't you? But who knows if they will. Anyway. And then Trump administration using spy satellites to monitor the southern border. Wonder if that would be on the Elon Musk satellite network, do you suppose? Trump administration ordered two Pentagon intelligence agencies, the NGA and the NRO, to use spy satellites to monitor the U.S.-Mexico border in a broader effort to curb illegal immigration and drug trafficking, according to Reuters. So, yeah, Big Brother's watching. So, I guess that's good in a way, but not good in many ways. I can see, using that to keep the border secure, but beyond that, definitely not. Total globalist tyranny alert. So this is back to the UK again. Starting Tuesday, white men in the UK will be sentenced to longer prison sentences than women and non-whites. You heard me right. That's where they're going in the UK. And, Prince Charles is the head of the monarchy there, isn't he? Mm-hmm. Reporter warns white men are going to be treated a lot tougher by judges from Tuesday compared to other groups. The British Sentencing Council has decided that starting Tuesday, white men will be sentenced to longer prison sentences than women and non-whites, according to reports. From the Daily Mail, Labour is powerless to prevent two-tier justice measures coming in force next week after ministers were defied by the Sentencing Council. Prime Minister Keir Starmer said he was disappointed with the independent body's decision to press ahead with the guidelines, which will give minorities special treatment in the courts. Yeah, I mean, from what I could tell, the main thing was that we're just going to, if you go and stab somebody or rape somebody and you're a minority or a woman, then you're just going to get a slap on the wrist. If you're a white man, you're going to get, the book thrown at you and you're going to be planted under the jail. That was kind of the impression I got. Keir Starmer's trying to be the good cop here, but clearly he's all for it because he works for King Charles. Anyway, white men will be sentenced to longer prison sentences than women and non-whites starting Tuesday. Isn't that nice? And then modernity.news. This is the last thing Hillary should be talking about. So this is looking back at the whole Signalgate issue. Clinton was found to have used personal email address for government communications. Is definitely the last person who should be commenting on the leaked Signal group chat between Trump officials, but she just couldn't keep her trap shut. As we highlighted, the story was a nothing burger that Democrats desperately tried to jump on, unsurprisingly, given that they have absolutely nothing else going for them. But the most hilarious development to come out of this is Hillary mounting her high horse and declaring how sacred national security materials are. Yeah, really. Clinton had the audacity to splurge her mind matter all over the New York Times opinion page, shamelessly proclaiming it's not the hypocrisy that bothers me, it's the stupidity. According to Hillary Clinton. X comments are closed, obviously. Yeah. So there's Hillary commenting on a leak that has nothing to do with servers being bleach bitted. No, it's okay when she does it. Anyway, and then this one, parents arrested for complaining about their kids' school in WhatsApp group. You got a license for that? Criticism. You got a license for that criticism? So this is, again, back to the UK. Parents of a 9-year-old British girl were arrested by police who came to their home after they complained about their child's school in a WhatsApp chat group. Yes, really. The Times reported that police arrested these two people in front of their daughter on suspicion of malicious communications, harassment, and causing a nuisance on school property because they criticized the school. But, yeah, there you go. There's your free speech in the UK. And then Dane's site this week, geoengineeringwatch.org, episode 503, Global Alert News. Severe weather threatens over 100 million from Gulf Coast to Great Lakes with strong tornadoes and massive hail. That's a Fox Weather headline. It's the third consecutive weekend much of the storm-weary U.S. will face a risk of large hail, damaging winds, and potentially strong tornadoes. Severe storms brew across the U.S. Wildfires are still torching the Carolinas. Temperature war brewing for northeastern U.S. this weekend as summer and winter do battle. That's what we mentioned earlier, where we had a 40 to 45 degree swing up in Boston, New York area. And then no matter how dire conditions become, all official sources continue to double down on their denial of climate engineering operations. Yep. So latest installment of Global Alert News. If you missed it, it's embedded there in the page. He's also got the same program is available on his Rumble channel, Dane Wigington on Rumble and BitChute. So you can find him there as well. And then we have the same show on Spotify too. So if you want an audio podcast version, that's a good way to go. And then as far as the weather map for this week, let's see, it's going to be, actually the dates here are April 5th through the 9th. So we're back to a little bit more of the split, although it's mostly below normal. So they need precipitation to do that, to really cool things off, because that's how the chemical ice nucleation process works. So there's usually a series of heavy spraying to bring in the storms and so forth, and they use the NextRad systems to direct storms up from the Gulf, direct the moisture, steer the moisture up, and then they chemically cool it down with the various planes and flyovers. So you have a little bit of the half and half, with the west being above normal and the Midwest and East, for the most part, being below normal. So that's what's coming up April 5th through 9th. So that's the scheduled weather. And then let's see here. Oh yeah, this is just one that I'll kind of read here. King hospitalized after suffering side effects of cancer treatment. So there's been some news reports that he's not doing well and so forth. And I remember I played a video last week that showed him sort of being pretty jovial, and it was just a couple of days before that when that video was shot. And now this is saying that he was hospitalized after suffering side effects of cancer treatment. King Charles has left Clarence House in London. I'll scroll this up so you can see it. For his residence at Highgrove in good spirits. Or you could say evil spirits. And then the next frame here says, despite postponing all official visits today due to the side effects of his cancer treatment. So he called in sick here. In a statement, Buckingham Palace said the temporary side effects required a short period of observation in hospital. And then King visited London Clinic before returning to the Clarence House in good form to do some work. Yes, because he's always working so hard for us all. He loves this so much. A health update from the palace as the recovery path continues in a positive direction without providing whatever it was, further details. And then King Charles is to be greatly disappointed. He is going to miss out on 4 public events planned in Birmingham. His Majesty's planned meetings with 3 ambassadors were also affected. So anyways, I don't know. It doesn't sound that serious if he really was hospitalized. It appears to be related to the whatever cancer treatment he's undergoing. And I mentioned last week, that the rumor is that he has pancreatic cancer, which I think if it were really that serious, I don't really know that he would be able to get up and wander around and have a fairly normal life like this. I could be wrong, but I don't know. I do think it's interesting that there are 663 thumbs up on this. So I could almost be 666, but I won't be. I won't bother clicking it. But pretty funny. So anyway, there's the old KC3 update, the soon-to-be biblical Antichrist update. So there's that. And then, let's see, Diamond Report on X. I'm trying to see if I've got a few new ones this week. Resist the CBDCs. Speaking of Charles, you may have seen this Sustainable Development Goals logo around on things that he's been promoting and talking about. This is definitely a World Economic Forum and UN type of image here as far as the rainbow and the Sustainable Development Goals. The UN's 17 Sustainable Development Goals have nothing to do with sustainability and everything to do with developing your home imprisonment. That's what this says. I think it goes beyond that, don't you? And then this post as well. Cocaine was found at Biden's house. A dead body was found at Obama's house. A male prostitute was found at Pelosi's house. An illegal server was found at Clinton's house. And the FBI raided Trump's house. So anyway, that is the X account that I use. It's the Diamond Report on X. I wanted to show you guys this. I thought this was a really good meme. Elon Musk disguises the IRS building as a Tesla dealership so that Democrats will burn it down. So that's one way to get rid of it, I guess. Got the Tesla logo on the IRS building. Saw that earlier and thought that was good. So yeah, make sure you're on the Substack list. I've mentioned it several times tonight because that's where you'll get all the wonderful links. I tried to go into dark mode tonight for the, I guess X in particular is that way. So you notice that we have a dark page now instead of white. So had some requests to go to dark mode for the for the web pages to be a little bit easier on your eyes, and it is late at night. I get it. So yeah, be on the Substack list if you're not already, and the band group as well. So the Substack list is in the upper right corner up there, diamonddisc.substack.com, so where you can go subscribe there. And I did get one new paid subscriber on Substack, so that was really cool. Thank you, and you know who you are. Thank you for your help. That is very cool and does help me to defray the cost of putting this show together, which is mostly time and some software and other hardware and things like that I have to invest in and upkeep, obviously. So yeah, there's a lot to it, and I don't mind paying for it out of pocket, but if you guys can chip in and help, that is always a welcome thing. So that is definitely very cool, and thank you guys for contributing in any way that you do, and just for being here tonight and for sharing the show. That is one of the number one things you can do to help me. But if you do want to help me financially, there's a method to do that. You can do that through Substack. You can also do that through Subscribestar. And Miss Emily put the links for those things in chat. So thank you for doing that. And thank you to all of the subscribers. I think we've got a total of 18 total on the two. So we have 12 subscribers who are contributing financially a little bit on Substack, and another 6 on Subscribestar. So we're not quite to 20 subscribers yet, but we're getting there. We're getting closer, so that's really good news. And then, of course, we have the store, which I've mentioned multiple times. I usually try and mention it each week. It's available here if you want to buy a little something, either as a gift or something for yourself. Different things here that are available with the Diamond Report logo and the Conspiracy Analyst logo on it as well. So those are there. And then, again, one of the main things you can do for me, though, is just by subscribing and sharing the show. That is super helpful. So that is available on YouTube, on Take It to the Lord in Prayer, as you guys know, and then Diamond Disc on these other platforms like Rumble and BitChute and Brighteon. And then, the band group is our group of friends, people in chat, and quite a few others that are available to subscribe to for free. You just join the group. Again, we're trying to get to 100 people. We got 97 in there right now. So if you want to join, it's totally free and open there for you to do that. Go to band.us and you can register for a free account on there. It's not my platform. It's just a really good, kind of mostly unknown platform for having groups, and they don't censor any information, which is why I like it. So band.us, go there and you can sign up for a free account. And then once you've done that, then just put in band.us/@ the Diamond Report, and that you'll go straight to the group here, and you can request to join, and it's totally free to do. And then either I will verify that and you're in the group, or Miss Emily will, one of the two of us will, and you'll be in the group. That's kind of how that works. And you guys can post whatever you're looking at, the things that you're interested in, or if you have a prayer request, it's a good way to do it. We've had people do both. So feel free to do that if you guys want, and just know that's available, as are these other platforms and some of the other things that I've mentioned tonight. And the email list is definitely a big one, though. So if you guys can join that, that's really helpful. If you want the links. If you don't want the links, then I guess it doesn't matter. But if you want to stay in touch with what I'm doing, that's probably the best way to do it, just because, then you're on my email list. I can send you information when it's imperative, and I won't abuse that, though. I totally just try and keep it to the 3 that I send out a week. I send out one email on Sunday announcing the show that night and the links for that, which is, many of you probably got that email earlier today. And then I send out one on Monday that has the podcast of the show tonight. The Sunday night show is sent out Monday, so people will get the podcast. And then the Tuesday one is really the main one that has the the links to the final version on all the different platforms, including YouTube and so forth. Now, this last week, I ended up sending it out on Wednesday because I couldn't get it all done and made it work. But so Wednesday was the day this last week where we ran the YouTube version and so forth. So, I mean, things are subject to be shifted around a little bit just depending on my schedule. But for the most part, it's usually Tuesday when that email goes out. So thank you guys for joining me tonight. I really appreciate it. We can close with one other special thing that I'm going to do each week. And I didn't really forget to do it. I just had to show so many other videos. But this is a really important one. It's by a friend of mine. You may know her. Her name is Lynn Liaz. And what I want to do is I'm going to start showing her some of her videos, just short little videos that have to do mostly with scripture. So I want to try and bring in some more scripture into what we talk about on this show. So I don't want to just only focus on the news 100% of the time. I want to also include scripture. So if you guys have any other suggestions or people like that you really trust who make short clips, I think that is a really good way to go. So this will give us a little taste of that. And this particular one is a study. It's the name of Jesus, and it says what we've been taught is completely wrong. So this is our special segment for tonight, and we'll just close the show with this one because it's a very important video, I thought. So thanks again for being here tonight. Appreciate it very much, and I hope you guys have a blessed week this week. And remember, and keep Jesus front and center in your life. I try to do that every week, and it definitely makes all the difference. So the number one thing you can do, though, is keep Jesus close and stay as close as you can to your family, because we don't know how much time we have. That's for sure. And my feeling on this is that they really want their wars, and we just don't know, when something like that could kick off. So anyway, all that said, be blessed, and I hope you guys enjoy this last video tonight. And I will see you guys again next week, which will be April the 6th? So it'll be April the 6th, starting at 10 p.m. Central Time. So we'll see you guys then. All right. Happy trails, you guys. Love you all.
Hi, it's Lynn Liaz, and welcome to another short episode of Words. Words in the Bible, biblical words, where we study the words and find out what they really mean. Today's word is name. That's right, name. Because name is a very important word in the Bible. You'll find out after I show you, but we need to understand what name means, because all throughout the Bible it says in my name, referring to God, and in my name, referring to Yeshua, Jesus Christ. In fact, Jesus said, anything you ask in my name, I will do it. If you ask anything in my name, I will do it. Well, the church today has taught us that saying the name of Jesus is like a magic wand, like, in the name of Jesus, I want this, or in the name of Jesus, I want that, name it and claim it. But that is not at all what the name means. What it means is it means in covenant. Anything you ask in covenant with me, I will do it in covenant. So let's have a look. So in order to fully understand, we have to go back to Deuteronomy chapter 5, and you'll see here verse 11, it says, you shall not take the name of the Lord your God in vain, for the Lord will not leave him unpunished who takes his name in vain. So a lot of us have been taught that means just frivolously saying the name of God or the GD word or things like that, but that's not at all what it means. The word name here means mark or covenant. Kind of like when a woman marries a man, she takes his name, makes a covenant, a vow. It's talking about making a false oath or a false pledge to the Lord, or false salvation. Jesus talks about those types in Matthew 13. So let's look at the word name. You can see here it means character, honor, authority, mark, or memorial. Name, memorial, monument, mark. Okay? So that's what that means. The word vain means emptiness of speech, lying, worthlessness, nothingness, vanity, destructive, to ruin, lie, lying, false. It says it's from the same as devastation, desolate, wasteness, ravage, devastation, ruin, waste of land. So taking the name of the Lord your God in vain, making a false, meaningless vow, which is destruction, desolation, and ruin, because it is apostasy. Apostasy means to turn your back on God, turn away from him, backsliding, divorcing God, returning to the ways of the flesh. In fact, there's a verse in Proverbs that talks about the comparison of as a dog returns to his own vomit, so is a fool who repeats his folly or error. So taking the name of the Lord in vain means to make a false vow or a false covenant or apostatize your faith in him. Let's look at some things Jesus said. Jesus said, whatever you ask in my name, that will I do, so that the Father may be glorified in the Son. If you ask me anything in my name, I will do it. If you love me, you will keep my commandments. Then he goes on to say, I will ask the Father, and he will give you another helper, that he may be with you forever. That is the Spirit of truth, whom the world cannot receive, because it does not see him or know him, but you know him, because he abides with you and will be in you. I will not leave you as orphans. I will come to you. After a little while, the world will no longer see me, but you will see me. Because I live, you also will live. In that day, you will know that I am in my Father, and you in me, and I in you. He who has my commandments and keeps them is the one who loves me, and he who loves me will be loved by my Father, and I will love him and will disclose myself to him. And then we skip down to the next verse here, verse 23. It says, Jesus answered and said to him, if anyone loves me, he will keep my word, and my Father will love him, and we will come to him and make our abode with him. He who does not love me does not keep my words, and the word which you hear is not mine, but the Father's who sent me. These things I have spoken to you while abiding with you, but the Helper, the Holy Spirit, whom the Father will send in my name, he will teach you all things and bring to your remembrance all that I said to you. Peace I leave with you, my peace I give to you, not as the world gives do I give to you. Do not let your heart be troubled, nor let it be fearful. And then if you go down to verse 30, it says, I will not speak much more with you, for the ruler of the world is coming, and he has nothing in me. Now, that leads us to another point. So Jesus is talking about obedience here. He's talking about keeping his word. His word are the commandments. Let me show you that real quick. So let's look here at Mark chapter 7, beginning with verse 6. And he said to them, rightly did Isaiah prophesy of you hypocrites, as it is written, this people honors me with their lips, but their heart is far away from me. But in vain do they worship me, teaching as doctrines the precepts of men. Neglecting the commandment of God, you hold to the tradition of men. He was also saying to them, you are experts at setting aside the commandment of God in order to keep your tradition. Once again, Jesus is talking about keeping his commandments and obedience. So this is also important. We're going to look at the word faith, because we have been taught that faith just means to believe, but that's not really what all that it means. I'm going to show that to you. And it goes with what I'm teaching you, because we're talking about being in covenant with the Lord. So the name of Jesus isn't just some magic thing like the church has taught us. It's being in covenant with him, being in covenant. And you saw clearly Jesus talks about obedience to him, particularly his commandments. But let's look at the word faith. It says, verse 14, it says, and if Christ has not been raised, then our preaching is vain. Your faith also is vain. So the word faith here, you'll see it says persuasion, moral conviction, especially reliance upon Christ for salvation. It talks about profession, belief, but it also says fidelity. fidelity. Okay, so fidelity and faithfulness. But if you go to it deeper into the root of the word, it also means obedience and trust. Look here. It says to obey, persuade, trust, and yield. Obey, persuade, trust, and yield. Okay, so again, to listen to, obey, yield to, comply with, trust, have confidence, be confident. So the name of God, or name of Jesus Christ, Yeshua, means mark, memorial, being in covenant with him. The seal of salvation, that is who the mark is. The seal of salvation, which is the Holy Spirit. In the name, okay, in the name of the Lord. Taking the name of the Lord God in vain means a meaningless or false covenant. Matthew 13, like I said, Jesus talks about those kinds of people who do that. It has to do with the falling away. The word faith means obedience, fidelity, and trust. For example, you have to do something that you are maybe afraid to do, but you're doing it in obedience to the Lord and being faithful to him and trusting not that you're going to get something in particular out of it, and not that it's going to necessarily benefit you, but you're trusting that it's going to benefit God and that he has his best interest at heart as you move forward in obedience to what he has told you and commanded you to do. So that is the proper definition of faith: obedience, fidelity, and trust, as well as the word name. Taking the name, using the name. These things, my friends, are all very important to understand. Very important, because it has everything to do with our relationship and our obedience to the Lord, and not only our own eternity, but the eternity of others who we teach the truth of Yeshua HaMashiach, Jesus Christ, to. If this message blessed you and you learned something from it, please consider sending a gift to help support what I'm doing. You can do so via my PayPal or my P.O. Box. The information is on the screen and beneath the video. Also, don't forget to share, like, and subscribe.